Welcome, everybody, to episode 13 of PT Shop Talk. On today's episode, we'll talk about biggest lessons learned in therapy, as well as our top 5 most disappointing movies. I'm Casey Hansen. With me today is the Siskel and Ebert of physical therapy, Nick Doling, and our special guest, Jeremy VanKlompenburg. Welcome.
Welcome back, Jeremy.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're in the midst of March Madness, so we figured again, being you're tall, we would ask you about basketball.
Bring the baller out. How's your bracket?
You know, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't fill one out this year. I didn't fill one out.
I'm gonna have to let you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, this is awkward. I should have clarified before we invited you on.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back to some Casey said. So you said I'm Siskel and I'm Ebert? I mean, that's
this is Siskel and Ebert. You're Siskel, Jeremy's Ebert. I don't know. I guess I didn't choose one.
Okay. Oh.
Because I introduced you guys together.
Because I thought you and I were more of a Siskel and Ebert type of tandem here.
Well, I wanted Jeremy to feel welcomed and not left out.
No.
How many are there triples of movie reviewers?
I'm the Rotten Tomato.
You're the Rotten Tomato.
He's a Gene Shalit. That guy with the mustache.
I like Gene Shalit. Yeah, the stash was good. He had that like a little whiny voice to him. Yeah, it was good. I like that.
Siskel and Ebert were my jam. They like when that channel would come in because we did the old analog TV growing up in rural Carrington, and not all the time did CBS come in. I think it was CBS they were on, but it'd be super fuzzy, and I just couldn't wait to hear him like break down, really just see the new movies and get their takes.
Refresh my memory. Were they part of a different show?
No, they had their own show.
They had their own show, huh? I seem to remember one of the two always being on like Entertainment Tonight or something, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, maybe they had a little side gig there, side hustle, but they had it was like Siskel and Ebert at the movies, I think. Yeah.
It was at the movies.
Yep.
I would hope so. That's what they did.
God, I love that show. I was always more of a Roger Ebert guy than Gene Siskel.
I think it was on ABC.
Was it ABC?
Yeah.
Do some producing work, Jeremy.
We were so rural. My dad, if we were really needing to change something, we'd have to get up on the ladder on the roof and rotate the antenna so that we could like pick up a different station.
Oh, you had the roof antenna, huh?
Yeah, we did.
That was a big deal, man.
Yep. Till DirecTV came into the picture, won us all over.
Yeah. We had Prime Star. Those are like the medium-sized satellite dish.
Yeah,
it was still a permanent guy, but it was much smaller.
Yeah. How about you, J-Bone?
We had a big dog. I was just thinking about that. We had. I actually to rewind a little bit. You're talking to man. It brings me back. I just told a story to a patient. I said I remember when we got our first television with a remote. I remember we had the knob TV.
Yep. That's weird.
Yep. And no, we had the big dog. It had to be 5-6 feet in diameter. And that thing rotated like it was like something off of GoldenEye.
It was like with the cable
physically rotated.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're gonna impale yourself. Yeah, my grandparents had one of those big suckers. That was cool though, because you had the laminate sheet with the coordinates to pick out the satellite, and the thing physically moved in the sky, like to point in the sky. That was sweet. And there was like 1,000 channel possibilities, but you only got like 50.
Yep.
But there was adult channels hidden amongst that 1,000. You just had to find them.
Risque.
Yeah.
Ruh-roh.
You know, you Blue Chews.
BlueChew.com. We thank them for sponsoring the
podcast. That's not tongue-in-cheek, Blue Chew. If you need to call me.
That wasn't that long ago either, right? I mean, 25 years ago, 30 years ago.
The rate of information change and technology is.
Yeah, we probably got Prime Star, I would guess, around 95, because I was a big MTV guy. So I remember watching.
You had to watch MTV2 if you got the videos, though. If you wanted to.
We had
even back then.
We had MTV still had videos at that time, but mostly I remember watching Beavis and Butthead on it.
Yeah. I mean, they showed videos on like TRL, like the original etiology of Total Request Live, right? And
Yeah,
then,
and TRC, when I started with MTV, it was Bill Bellamy's top 20. That was the
dang, Bill Bellamy was the dude.
Oh
a long
man,
time.
Rock Jams. Talk about basketball. They should bring that back.
Yeah, we are really sidebarring here, but I mean, we go back to Ricky Rockman and Headbangers Ball.
That was a little before my time.
Come on.
Same.
Boo.
That explains your music choices.
I'm all over that. Like I said, I'm like the peacemaker to your not peacemaker.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
I'll come up with a better one.
Yeah, we'll edit that one out and post.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I actually did make a bracket. We talked about this last time, Nick, and I was pretty pumped last time. I'm doing terrible. I have like one team left. I mean, I hope to maybe get one more win out of this thing.
I haven't looked at mine since Monday.
Because
I did have Baylor winning, and obviously they got bumped last week.
I had I believe Baylor and Gonzaga in the championship. So Gonzaga, I don't know. I'll sound like a fool.
Gonzaga. It's all the same. Let's throw the whole thing out.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm over it too. I pretty much once Baylor lost, I lost interest as well. We do one between our 3 clinics. So I'm watching it a little bit just to see who's going to win because I'm going to take them out to lunch. But
because the Sweet 16 is going on yesterday and today, right?
Yeah, I think they must play the last game tonight.
Yeah, it's starting right now. Yep.
But on better news, means no one cares about the men's side. I have to throw out a yipper for you guys.
Go Lady Yotes.
Lady Yotes, huh? That's cool.
Yeah.
I hate to cheer for a South Dakota team, but I'm gonna have to. They play Michigan, is that right?
I think you're right. There's a Michigan State. I totally know. I know.
No way it's Michigan State.
Okay, how is there no way? Aren't they a good program regardless of gender?
Yeah. Yep. They play Michigan though.
Boom. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
tomorrow at 6:30.
You're Ann Arbor, guys.
So that'll be a fun game. I mean, if you can beat Baylor, you can beat Michigan, right?
Yep.
Anything is possible.
Hey, I'm in first place.
It's madness.
What? Oh, for a guy who doesn't look at his bracket.
I just looked at it. I pulled it up now since we're talking about it. I'm in first place.
Very frustrating.
My ceiling, let's see. I'm leading with the most total points, but that obviously doesn't matter, right? I mean, it's
no. How many points you got left? Do you guys do round scoring where it's more points every round?
Yeah.
Oh, you're
well. I think that's how it looks. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Arizona went down, Gonzaga went down.
Yep. Yeah, we might have no number ones going into this thing.
That's cool. Yeah, I can't see though. It's not letting me see like maximum points. It's just showing me like total right
now. Well, congratulations on your number one. We'll keep the audience updated.
It's making me feel good about myself. Jeremy knows how much attention I pay to basketball.
Tons.
Yeah, now that wrestling is done, is that true?
Man, I did do you guys get to see Gable Stevenson's last college match?
Ooh, just missed it.
Yeah.
My phone must have not alerted me to that.
Oh my God. You're going to regret. Someday we're going to be talking about this and you're going to think back. You're like, March 25th, 2022. I should have been listening to Nick about Gable Stevenson because he's going into the WWE next, but he's also kept his options open and the UFC wants to sign him as well. The background on him, he is
can I be honest? This is the first I've heard of Gable Stevenson.
So Gable caught my attention a long time ago as an 8th grader. He's from here in Minnesota. He's from Apple Valley High. Yeah. And as an 8th grader, he was a state runner-up, 220 pounds. So
that's a big
right
8th
there,
grader.
It's like, wow, that's pretty talented, right?
What kind of height are we talking here? Is this Vision Quest? Is he 7'3"?
No, he's listed at 6'2". As of last week, so bump it up. So he ended up winning 4 state titles. I think 1 at 220 and the rest all at heavyweight. And
it's not a bad run.
He was ranked number 1 in the country for quite a while. Stayed in Minnesota, went to the Gophers. was an All-American, and then has been number one for 3 straight years. In 2020, he won the Big Ten. It was the number 1 seed, but then they didn't do a tournament because of COVID. So he's won back-to-back titles. Last summer, he won the gold medal in the freestyle stylings of the Olympics. Basically, the dude can do it all. So he's 6'2", about 263 is what he was listed at last week. Signed with that whole NCAA ruling, he was able to sign a contract with WWE, and they've been paying him all year to have a developmental deal. But he's also been very vocal and honest and attended all these UFC events as well, that he wants to be able to do that in addition. And dude is about the most talented big man to ever come through the sport.
Can you do the eyebrow thing?
I don't know if he can do that though.
Is he going to be a big actor?
You never
that's
know.
what I care about.
Yeah.
You never know. Like the next Dwayne.
Yeah. Does he play to the audience? Are you allowed to do that in college wrestling? I don't know.
Oh, he does. He does. And they've worked on that a lot, trying to make it more entertaining in general.
And does he just stomp the foot like 3 or 4 times before he goes in?
You should see him but he celebrates with his monumental floor routine backflip. And for a guy that size, it's ridiculous. Like I don't know. I don't want to say there'll never be another guy like that come through, because obviously freaks come and go. But he's definitely, to this point, the most insanely athletically gifted wrestler we've ever seen.
And I missed it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
Who did he wrestle for in college?
Who? The Gophers.
Who did he wrestle? The Ghosts. Okay.
Yeah, he stayed in Minnesota,
I missed that
man.
God, I know you said he's from Minnesota. I got lost at Apple High.
Apple Valley.
You're not the first.
All right. Jeez.
Crab Apple High.
Yeah. Oh, delicious.
So
did you say apple pie?
Apple pie, yeah. So I'm killing it in brackets. I'm
killing it in
you guys in wrestling.
You were on vacation. Your top 5 vocalists, although Sketch was popular with the folks. So
yeah, very good.
Things are coming up Nick right now, huh?
My mom really supported that top 5.
Oh yeah, she's the only one that's commented. So way to go, Mom.
Is that a true thing? Is that because I totally believe you?
Yeah, but instead of saying how much she liked your list like a good mom, she just cut mine down the whole time.
Yeah, that's a good mom.
Yeah.
When she got down here, she
watched Nick's list. Yours is garbage.
Yours sucked.
Yeah.
We were so blessed to have her watch our kids for the week when we were in Florida, and yeah, one of the first things we talked about when she got down was the list, right? And I didn't say what mine was, but right away, you know what my mom says? She goes, "Well, Whitney Houston's number 1," and I'm like, "That's what I said," you know. And then she's like, "Well, who else did you have up there?" And pandering to my audience, I said Ann Wilson was my number 2, and she's like, "Oh, I can't disagree there."
Yeah, so, of course.
Solid.
The apple does not fall far from this tree.
Where did you stand on Tina Turner?
We didn't get down to Tina. I think she kind of nodded.
Yeah, she didn't want to ruin the surprise if she's listening later, I suppose.
But enough about me. Jeremy, support my list. What would you
tell us more?
You said before we cut the recording, you definitely said Adele would be up there, right?
Yeah, Adele would be on my list. I didn't really think a ton about order. Adele's
That's okay. Neither did I.
Like I said, I think Florence and the Machine, Lana Del Rey. I mean, like you said, maybe it's just the unique sound, but I guess I'm not a real great judge of like technical vocals. But I think they sound pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to like people instead of just choose people who are the best.
Yeah, I mean, Kesha was up there too, but you know the energy.
The title of the list was greatest. So greatest is the first word.
Yeah.
Female vocalist of all time.
You didn't say best.
Does Adele have a $sign in her name?
No, she doesn't. But I did see so apparently she released a whole new album titled 30 now. I wasn't aware of it. So even more brownie points to her.
She says it right. She doesn't even have to think about the album names. That was a cool move on her part.
Just
How old
totally
am I?
cool.
Yeah. Okay.
It actually really is, right? I mean, it really
Kind of like when you go through
clever.
it, you can see, where she's at in life, how it
like its own little
affects your music.
that goes with it. Yeah. What was her first one? 19, 21, 25? Is that
19 and
right?
21, I'm pretty sure. I
19,
lost interest after that. That's why she didn't make my list. But
was it?
Oh,
Yeah.
you need a
dang.
producer. I don't have the second laptop open. I didn't
Hello
come in
from
prepared.
me. All right. So, anything new we need to cover before we go into the world of physical therapy?
No, I guess the only other thing I have in the world of physical therapy is I'm teaching a class this weekend. Hey,
That's right.
Tomorrow,
Well,
I'm
what?
actually not even shutting this Zoom thing down. I'm doing like a 24-hour podcast by myself through the whole thing. Yeah.
Are you going to keep the mic up the whole time?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They have to know. This is how I'm going to roll into the class.
Dang.
Yeah, this year, apparently, to get CEU approval, we had to fill out a curriculum vitae. You guys ever familiar?
You should be updating your CV all day, Ben.
Yeah, I don't, apparently.
Stay ready.
Yeah, I've done it twice. I did it once initially, and then I did it again a couple of years ago. I had to do it again.
I've never done it.
Yeah, I wonder if potentially, I think I had to do one back when we did that weekend spine course, Nick, but I don't remember doing it.
Yes, that's why we did it. That's why, because the state of Minnesota needed it for board credit approval.
Yeah, I don't remember filling it out much because like we got like the sample of what to fill out, and it's like, oh, what books have you authored and what articles have you published? And I was like, ooh.
Yeah, but there's other opportunities to kind of pat yourself on the back there too.
Yeah, I mean, being an adjunct professor is presenting at Humblebrag. Presenting at different things is all you need to fill on there. But
I love it, man. Dr. Casey, my man.
I make them call me Professor.
PC.
Professor Hampton. PH, baby.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. No, but it's so that'll be fun. I like teaching those weekend courses where it's all on Zoom, so that'll be good. I don't have to travel. The one nice thing I like about teaching courses though live is you get to go out and have lunch with everybody. I kind of miss that part.
Is this the one is this the one that kind of correlates with Too Hot to Handle?
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha.
So we do like half recorded, half Zoom, and then so we do Saturday, they do Sunday. They really got the sucker into that deal. Although with basketball, I'd probably rather do Sunday now, but
oh yeah. No, that's cool, man.
It's fun for those in the audience that have never taught a course. I recommend it. You learn a lot. It's fun. You get good at it. Luckily I teach with another person, Brady Nelk, and she's really good at doing the PowerPoints and organizing and keeping me on track. And I get to talk because she doesn't like that. Yeah. She's not as much of a public speaker. So.
Yeah. Well, that's good, man. Good luck tomorrow. As I know there's a lot of work, a lot of time invested in preparation. I've only done a couple of half-day courses where I split with somebody else, and I enjoyed that. You know what? I think it's a good way to challenge yourself. So again, hats off to you. I think it's what kind of keeps us all growing is when you find new ways to challenge yourself, and in that you're always going to have like a little bit of a new audience.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
And I think you change your perception a little bit about what you're teaching sometimes, which is good. I mean, people ask good questions, and you go through it. Luckily, like most of the work happened. This is the fourth time I've taught it. Most of your work is that initial planning, but even now, then I have to go through everything again. Again, Brady does an awesome job of cleaning up, make sure all the links still work, and make sure all the information's up to date. But it's good to remind yourself to kind of go through that stuff again and freshen up a little bit, because some of it, this course is a very intro to pain science. So some of this stuff I necessarily don't use that much anymore because I've moved beyond, or you've found different ways to integrate it.
Yeah.
But if you don't take the basics, you can't adjust it and integrate it yourself in your own profession. So to go back and kind of remember those first steps is a good refresher too. I mean, it's the same reason I like teaching at the college, because sometimes we dial it back and I go, oh man, maybe some of those simple things you're not doing right. So, or you're forgetting or skipping, or, and sometimes our simplest techniques are our best techniques too. So
yeah, in a lot of ways, you're right. I agree with that.
Yeah. So it's
and just when you think something's, I think we said this before, but in my opinion, I think just when you start really believing that one way is the way, and you feel like it's working with almost all these patients, then you turn around and it's like, oh man, like,
don't drink the Kool-Aid.
You get 2 or 3 people that come in a couple of days and they're like, I just don't know.
Yeah. So it's good. I'm looking forward to that. It's a long day, but it's fun.
Yeah. Well, again, good luck tomorrow, buddy. Go get him.
Are you wearing a cardigan?
I don't know what I'm gonna go with. Probably just 3/4. That's kind of my jam lately. I don't know why.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, corncob pipe, of course, and monocle, but
monocle. I love it.
Hey, that's professor gear.
I only teach C with a monocle on.
Yeah, it's really hard to like crunch on it the whole time. I look pretty dumb, but
we walked out of a sports bar like a week ago where this older guy was legit out there puffing on a pipe. It wasn't corncob. It was like, old timey pipe, and he hit on my wife. So that was cool.
That was enjoyable.
Yeah. Was he an older man, or was he similar, like just a hipstery man?
No, he was older. He was legit north of 65.
Man, still got it.
Guesstimate.
Blue chews.
What do you got to lose?
All right.
I kind of just laughed. I'm like, Michelle blush a little bit.
Oh, look at this baller.
Oh. I'm like,
the pipe works, man.
You just kind of walk away chuckling. I think he'd had too many sangrias or something. I don't know.
Too many Boone's Farms.
Too many gins and tonics.
Yeah.
You guys ever had that happen? You ever have somebody make them move on your old lady in your presence?
Here's the deal. I'm probably like the least jealous person in the world, and my wife will probably admit to that. Like, I'm sure it happens all the time, and I'm like, what a nice gentleman. Like, can you believe that guy? What a pleasant lad. We should invite him over sometime for drinks. Like, so I know it happens, because I think my wife is awesome and attractive, so I'm sure it happens, but I'm just completely aloof to it.
Smart line. I love how you put that plug in there.
Just that's smooth. Has she liked and subscribed?
Better.
She's our editor in chief.
Yeah, she's the producer. No, she hasn't voted on the poll yet. I'll tell you that much.
Whoa.
Well.
So I don't know. So how about you, Jeremy? Have you ever had that situation where you've just had to put some old dude on the ground?
Boom.
You know, not an old dude. But no, nothing.
Break his pipe right in front of him.
Nothing's coming to mind right off the bat. Like you said, I'm sure there's been a time or two. I'm probably more jealous than not jealous.
I can see that.
But
you got really feisty that one time with your doppelganger.
Yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah,
that had nothing to do with jealousy, though. That
seems like a good story else for another time.
Yeah, for another time. Jeremy's got a doppelganger. he hates hearing that. So,
like,
there is a person that has a similar look to you that you have to interact with at times.
Yeah, I mean, similar would be loose.
Okay. So the doppelganger term was coined by Nick Doling.
Nick, yeah.
Okay. And Jeremy hated it. And then we had this girl working for us, TSR, back in the day. And I think, Jeremy, you were a student, right?
Yeah.
And she messages me from the Gambler, Blur. She's like, I'm pretty sure Jeremy's down here tonight. I'm like, oh yeah. And she got up to this guy that Jeremy happened to we'll just say it wasn't a complimentary comparison at the time. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding. It's like I couldn't even like scripted this thing to have somebody else mistake these two guys for each other after a very razzed him. So
yeah, it worked out.
Yep. Life's good. So Amy, nobody's
took his
put
life
their
and
moves on
that's
Amy
what you're living now.
You're obviously aware of.
Not that I'm aware of.
You're like a 7 foot tall monster.
Yeah.
So you're keeping them at bay.
They should be afraid.
Everybody stays arm length away, which is about 12 feet, I suppose.
Yep. Yeah.
Wingspan.
No, there was one time. I can't remember if that was. Gosh, I can't remember the details of it.
Get him.
Yeah. You can remember it. Look into your anger. Let it let it flow. Oh, yeah. There it was. I saw it. I felt it through the camera.
I love it. Let that anger go.
Yep.
That was a crappy Emperor voice, but something like that.
You can work on it. It's no Michael McDonald, but
someday we'll do male vocalists, and he's top 1, 2, and 3.
Takes the whole podium.
That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good sidebar topics.
Yeah. Well, I do have one more thing. Sorry, I keep doing this. Have you guys ever done an escape room? I did one of those for the first time this weekend.
What'd you think?
I enjoyed it. It was fun. I don't know if it's something like I would do, like become an escape roomie, because I'm curious, because I'm going to do another one next week with our clinics.
Ooh.
So I'm curious to see like how much variety there's going to be, but
yeah, you have like solve problems, right? Riddles and stuff like that.
A little bit, yeah. Like ours was like a hot dish. We were health inspectors, and we went to a hot dish place, and we were supposed to do a health inspection, but the last health inspection report had disappeared along with the health inspector. So yeah, we had to find out what happened to the report. Turned out in the freezer with his body. And then the guy that owned the restaurant locked us in with a bomb, and then we had to defuse the bomb. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, there was even some dexterity type stuff you had to do to like get the key out of this box with like these thin little metal hooks, and
yeah,
it was fun. You know, I think now that I've done one, I kind of get the flow of it and what you're looking for a little bit more. So yeah, I'd be curious to see how doing a couple of them would go, if you'd be like, oh, it's kind of always the same little techniques.
We did one that was it was kind of a multi-room one. It was actually anatomy based. There were 3 of us couples, and my brother-in-law and I are probably like the move ahead, like find everything as soon as possible, and both of our wives are like we're trying to take notes and do this in order, so we annoyed the crap out of everybody.
I can see that.
There was probably,
did you escape?
There was probably too many cooks in the kitchen. Yeah, we did. I'd be
I assume you just kicked the door down.
No. It was just you had people that were trying to solve like 7 riddles at once, because there were a lot of padlocks and find the numbers here and things like that. And no, we escaped in under the allotted time, so we finished, but you know, I think we left a little on the table there. I think we could have been better.
Yourself, huh? Yeah, we finished with 40 seconds.
And we were kind of in that too. Like it was within a minute or two, and so
it was super exciting though, because we had 4 rooms like within this one room. So it was like 7 minutes maybe, and we had like one door we hadn't even opened yet, and then we found like there was things on the wall, whatever. One popped off, and you could look into the room, and it's like this giant office. We're like, well, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Because how are we going to look through this whole office and solve more riddles in 7 minutes? But we got in there, and I mean, we figured out there was really only one riddle in there. We figured it out, and like you have to yell this code out to our wives that were by the door, and they're like, the code doesn't work. And we're like screaming. They're like, it has to work. I don't know what other options. And then they're like, oh, just kidding. We forgot to turn the deadbolt. We're out. We're out. Oh, okay.
We got
anticlimactic.
Catastrophe avoided.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, that'd be fun for a team building thing, though. You know, where you can just kind of sit back and see how people interact. And it'll be fun. I'm surprised some of our staff are like anxious about it. Like
you know,
because we're gonna
go out for like happy hour, and then like the escape room's at 8, and people are like, I might do the happy hour, but I don't know about the escape room. I just do it.
Be scared. Like. Don't be scared.
It turn into a pumpkin. Stay out past 8:30.
We actually drove by one Tuesday night. We contemplated it down in Orlando, and it just wasn't the vibe. It was like, I think everybody had too many Bartles and James in them by that point, and the problem solving might not have been at a high
level. That makes it better.
We would have blown up with the bomb.
You just tell the person you're going to vomit, and then they'll let you out, I assume.
Yeah.
Mystery solved.
That's a cheap way out.
You always got to have that in your back pocket. I'm a plan B guy.
So did you learn that from a mentor, perhaps?
Whoa.
You see my segue?
That's a spotty segue at best, but no, I didn't.
Is it a lesson you learned in therapy?
Oh, it's a lesson I've learned in life.
Quit stealing my segues.
So yeah,
I try to work one in every week. I try.
Yeah, you're getting better. It's not bad. At least we're not talking about the weather. Yeah.
Yeah, we had to stop talking about the weather at some point.
Yeah, it got better when we did that. Now, as we move into the main topic, biggest lessons learned in therapy, I'm curious, Jeremy, are you going to manage to do the next hour and a half without answering any questions Nick and I have for you like you did last time?
No, I'll answer the question.
Jeremy, you had this most amazing ability to talk about a question for about 10 minutes without ever answering it. It's a very fun
what I do
listen.
in the clinic too.
Yeah, it was like watching a magician.
Yeah. He's got a future in politics.
Yeah. At the end, Nick just had to answer his own question. It was glorious.
Now you see me, now you don't.
Yeah, it was great. So biggest lessons learned in therapy. I'll let Nick kick it off. We're talking approaches, techniques, things that really transformed your outcome as you went through therapy.
Yeah. No, good topic, good series of ideas here to get generated. And as we've talked about so many times, I don't think it was ever really one thing individually, one thing on its own, but like just sequentially learning different aspects of therapy that help keep you sharp. And I think one big game changer for me that I still apply to this day, because I wanted to be really, again, intellectually honest with myself, like do something, not just say something that sounds smart, but actually, like, what do I actually do, right? Mm-hmm. And using asterisk signs in every treatment, like test, treat, retest, has just been a huge tool to incorporate, finding a couple of measurables every time and hold myself accountable, and then hopefully see that longitudinal carryover as well over time. So asterisk signs, learning about that, I think that came through, a lot of it came through when we first started partnering with the IM and then preparing for my OCS. So I still stick with that. I think patients gravitate towards that too. It shows that you're giving them something of value within the treatment. One other one, and I'll maybe toss it to Jeremy, was this, sorry. This
that was a dramatic cough. I liked it.
Yeah, I brought back a little Florida funk, maybe.
A little. This is via Zoom.
Oh,
just some things, kind of just based on, I guess, anatomical and physiology theory, such as like loaded versus unloaded to weed out structural versus dynamic instabilities, issues like that, motor control things. It's still something I lean on, every now and again, breaking it down to find out, okay, is there truly something structural here that, not saying it's going to necessitate like manipulation or anything like that, but going into whether you need to just kind of ignore or live with it or refer out if it's significant enough from a symptom presentation standpoint. But looking at that and finding out that when you do that consistently, at least in my experience, I found out like probably 85% are all like motor control things. They're all some type of dynamic instability. People have some type of muscle patterning firing issue. So those are some things that really transformed my practice and I think kept me I guess moving in one consistent direction with each patient, not being too scattered, right?
Do you feel like asterisk signs helped you as a therapist more, or help patients with their buy-in more, or kind of a combo?
Both, definitely combo.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Like I said, it keeps me accountable. Like, I mean, if I'm being pretty accurate with my tests and measures, and I go through and retest it, right? It holds me accountable. So
yeah, I would agree. Asterisk signs definitely it's a very simple concept. I'm surprised it was a concept we didn't learn in school.
Mm-hmm.
It's a concept we teach now, but would have been pretty simple to go through and talk about that. I think sometimes I struggle, with your really highly irritable, really highly sensitized patients with asterisk signs. I think it's worth retesting sometimes, but that's always a little, I don't know. I always ask myself how to present it and how to make sure it doesn't become a negative for the patient too sometimes, because sometimes with, those patients, the progress is slow, I mean, sometimes it's not like a neck manip where, I'll full motion, walk out the door. But you're right. I think it's something too that we don't need to talk ourselves out of with those patients. I think that's easy to go, they're chronic pain patients. There's no value there. I still think there's some value. And I think there's some value in reviewing those things with patients. And I'll talk about that when we get to my list too. But I know that's somewhere I struggled with was, some of those persistent pain patients. And how do I keep using asterisk signs and keeping myself accountable, showing the patient progress, even though it's maybe not that in session progress as often, as maybe you'd hope with just a general ortho, but
yeah. How about you, J-Bone?
I would, I'd dovetail off of that too. I mean, I've always gravitated towards while you're talking some SFMA concepts, although I would say I really never integrated the top tier into practice, as a screen, that idea of, is this motor control? Is this a true joint dysfunction? How do you move loaded? How do you move unloaded? I don't know. I love the idea of just patient empowerment. I've always thought Kelly Starrett is great, from his mobility WOD days to, now the Ready State. He just had a great podcast too with Mark Bell, and the knees over toes guy. I mean, it's empowerment, right?
Mark Bell's not knees over toe guy.
No.
Or they were all on there.
Mark Bell, Kelly Starrett, knees over toes.
It's like Siskel and Ebert of therapy.
It's
Nick
what
Doling
we're
and Jeremy.
aspiring to be. It's what we're aspiring to be.
Well, they were. I think that was episode 682. So you guys got a little wiggle room yet.
Yeah, we'll tighten it up. Nick's transitions will get there.
But
my top fives will never get there.
Is Kelly still? Is he still bantering on surfer meathead though?
A little bit. I think he's moved a little away from that. He's not talking as much about being in the pain cave anymore. But you know what? I think that's valuable too. Speaking in the language of your patients, and
to a point
of
right.
No.
Well, then that research study just came out saying that swearing with your patients is therapeutic and creates better outcomes. I don't know. Did you guys see that?
I remember a podcast where that was discussed.
Yeah, people ahead of the game, I would say. Sometimes the gurus are ahead of the research. That's all.
Is that evidence in motion?
No, I'll let you know. Keep talking, Jim.
Tim Flynn published it.
No,
that seems like his work.
Two partner barbell groin smash.
I think he's
Nick,
eased
are
up
you
a little
trying
on
to
that
make
too.
podcast enemies for us right now? What is happening?
Gotta get heat, bro. We gotta get heat on the podcast.
Okay, all right. Keep flaming the fires.
No, but that's way no. Jeremy and I we know that. I'm not trying to shit all over his list, but it's his thought. But back, gosh, that was like 7 years ago, maybe.
Yeah,
we would talk, and it's just the one thing that I couldn't latch onto with it.
Yeah, I know. But I think in terms of like his main mantra of like every human should be able to perform basic maintenance on themselves, I think that's cool.
That's
and
legit.
and in terms of like how do we relay that to people, chronic pain or not, I love asterisk signs. Like we preach that to our team all day, every day. Gosh, even from a standpoint of whether you want to get into like documenting skill, like that's easy. This is where we started, this is what I did, this is where we ended.
I can speak to that. You're going to want to do that on your documentation.
But then in terms of overall, I would say as well, knowing though when to maybe pull that for a session or two for somebody when you're like, man, they had a flare up, and if I sit here and say they dropped 8 degrees in shoulder flexion, like where does this take them in their treatment to?
You think it becomes more catastrophizing in that
correct. Yeah. So it's like, but I agree wholeheartely, like that keeps us accountable. Like, do we just throw a bunch of trash at the wall and be like, I think it's working, or is it like well,
they like me, they're telling me it's working, right? They like me.
Yeah, that might be at the foundation of placebo, but you hope that, and that's good, right, to have that buy-in, but then you hope there's some real meat that we can add to that too. So I don't think I answered that question either.
Keep going.
You did. You said no. You did. You talked SFMA. You talked Kelly Starrett. You didn't dodge it as bad as you dodged the other ones. I don't even think you did that intentionally.
I think listeners are still wondering if you actually own a business. They don't even know.
I don't either some days.
Yeah.
But no, just in terms of, it's like at the end of the day, whatever we're selecting, how can we meet the patient where they're at? Is it something they can do? Right. Yeah. I just had that talk with a clinician this week where it's like, it was probably a little bit black and white, but I'm like, man, it doesn't matter if this is the most evidence-based or if this is how you want to treat it. Like if the patient's sitting here telling you it's not working for me, then it's not working. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we gotta find it and meet them where they're at. And we can't become so entrenched in our viewpoints either that we don't have that ability to kind of bob and weave and find something that works. So to tie a bow on it, maybe, I'd say, in terms of going through, this is going to sound like a big bump for EIM, but going through the ortho residency, Jason Rodriguero, the first session we had, it was like, man, the experts do the basics well. So I've really fallen back on that. Like sometimes we can get in our own ways and be like, no, I got this, awesome technique. And it's like, yeah, it might be awesome for some, but others it's not. And so I really appreciated the eclectic approach that they brought to orthopedic care. You don't get tied up into too much of the dogma from, these different tribes. It's move it and move on. And I've appreciated that.
Definitely. How about you, Case?
Yeah. Archives of Physiotherapy was where the swearing article came from, if you guys are curious about it.
Go. So they're not even real physical therapists.
Well, they're physios. I mean, they're legitimate in every other country but America. So
was there a word that was particularly more effective?
I guess I didn't delve that far into it. It depends on how saucy your patient is, I believe, was kind of what that article was talking about. But it's kind of like, is professionalism that important with every patient? And which leads
times are changing so much rapid. I mean, they really are.
We should have a discussion on what does professionalism mean at another time.
Yeah, we should talk about current level professionalism with our employees. I would agree. But that's a different talk. So for me, I definitely have a lot of persistent pain patients, but I think this stuff carries over into everybody I treat. You know, I think the first thing, I simplified the heck out of my profession probably 5-6 years in. You know, again, we've talked about it ad nauseum. School was definitely algorithm based, biomechanical based.
Yeah.
Break it down. You know, I used to, when I came out, like every research article in physical therapy was like, this exercise has the highest activation of glute medius. So if your patient has difficulty with, external rotation, this is the exercise you should do. And they'd have 30 exercises, and those articles would change every 6 months, and you never knew. But it was like breaking these movements down. And it came down to, at that time, I didn't call it asterisk signs, but like, what does your patient want to do better? Like, let's
You
just do
you didn't
it.
trust the science.
I didn't. I was told to be careful with the research, Nick.
Well, there's more needed, and the sample size is too small.
Yes.
But, you know,
we went on that rant already one time.
Yeah, but it came down to, the patient has a hard time getting out of a chair. Like, do I need to do clams and single leg balance and like all these pieces, or can I just spend a good chunk of the session working on getting the patient out of the chair with the patient and getting the patient comfortable? How do I adjust that movement with the patient? Greg Lehman always says, be a movement optimist. So however you need to do the movement, within reason to get them comfortably doing it. And then as they get more comfortable, even with how you adjust it, then can you bring it back towards normal movement into normal environments?
Yeah.
That's improved. And even personally, I would say in my life, like, I used to be one of these guys that would go to the gym and like it was chest day and I did like 30 different chest exercises to get my bench stronger. And then before I was 30, I was like, God, I'd really like to like really improve my bench. And then all I did was just straight flat bench for like 6 months. And I benched way better than I ever did in my life. And that's all I did.
We get better at what we work on.
So much of it, neuro programming. Yeah.
Really,
there's value to accessory things, but your pyramid should kind of start with.
And that's where we are skilled clinicians. And, if the basics aren't working, what can we bring in? What can we bring out? But like, I started with like the advanced stuff and, again, good clinicians do the simple things really well. And I wasn't doing that part of it. I was just trying to be best, like trying to be outthink myself. And things just got better and patients had better buy-in because, well, what do you work on in therapy? Well, sit to stands or reaching overhead, like instead of going, I did like 13 different neural rehab exercises for my shoulder that were all kind of the same thing, but differing forms of it.
Well, to your point, I was talking with this patient about this just last week, and they were talking about how different therapists taught them the lateral monster walk with bent knees. And I actually do both. I do one quick set, with locked knees and one quick set with bend. And we were talking about the debate there and how, to your point, some articles have said, one way creates better need activation. The other one, shows that,
Does the patient care?
Exactly. Right. And well, they kind of do. I mean, they want to know what they're doing is the best, right? Or the smartest. But I told them at the end of the day, I'm like,
sell them. If you want that placebo effect to work its best, Jeremy, you got to sell it.
And I think there's value. I think there's just value to each one, right? And because that stuff does change, I think the one as far as like muscle activation studies, it's that Reinhold one related to the rotator cuff
shoulder,
showing like side lying shoulder external rotation, like has the greatest muscle activation for infraspinatus and teres minor. And I think that one shows up repeatedly, and they've done that over time. And again, if it's just a piece of what you're doing, does it really matter? I mean, just make sure you're doing it at some point. But the other more global movements, to your point, are probably equally or more.
I agree, and I think we have to be able to communicate that to the patient too, right? In terms of why am I doing something? I tell people that at every eval and every subsequent session, ask questions. Like, I don't want you to sit in that corner and I'll sit in this corner and I'm just going to bark stuff at you. And you're going to say, okay, Dr. Jeremy, let's do this. Ask questions. I should have a really dang good reason for why I'm asking you to do anything. I think that gets the patient engaged too. I say, ask as many questions as you want. I mean, some people are just like, no, just tell me what to do. Right. And again, that's where some of the nuance comes in too, that, you can talk up and down about something. And again, some of their eyes will just gloss over, kind of like when Nick talks about wrestling.
Which Jeremy is, Nick, you may want to pay attention. That was a great segue to my part two. The other thing that's really made me a great clinician is learning how to use motivational interviewing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that's such a powerful tool. I was just talking to a former colleague who's going through training. He's a fellow and he's training some fellows now, and they're talking about pain. And we were talking about metaphors and how they're not always really, the research is showing metaphors aren't that great of a way to teach people about pain. But the fellow was like classic, and that's what I'm going to teach tomorrow, right? He's the metaphors. Boom, I'm going to hit you with all these metaphors over the course of 5 or 6 visits to teach you about pain. And like you said, Jeremy, the guys, he doesn't care. Right. And I said, it's such a big difference from me going, here's why you hurt, to your patient going, why does this hurt? Like, opening that door and finding ways to, even, things like,
so now, okay, but let's back up here in the metaphor thing.
Yeah.
Laugh. No, I mean, that I think, and this here, sure, we can always, maybe I got a bias too. I don't know, but I think over time I've come to find, now I'm not saying 100% of people, 100% of every single patient responds to a metaphor, but I'd also say there's quite a heavy percentage of the population that certainly does. And
the right metaphor delivered at the right time. Correct.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, some people need that. Like, break it down to me. Like, I've heard this said before too, is one of the best pieces of advice I've heard. Like, don't break it down to me like I'm another physical therapist, right? Or I'm a pain, or even greater, a pain fellow, right? Break it down to me like you're teaching me to make a freaking sandwich. That's how I've heard it like equated. And when you could tap down into, again, the basic levels of human understanding that equate to just about everybody, without patronizing them or talking down or dumbing everything down for them, but meet them where they need to be and make sure it makes sense. I think that's super valuable.
Yeah, and that's kind of what some of the research is saying. Like, patients don't necessarily care about the metaphor as much as the message and how it's delivered to them. And I don't have the research in front of me right now to say what exact, but it just says that, again, the patient has to be receptive to it. And like Jeremy said, some patients just want to go, well, here's biologically why you hurt. And other patients are like, that doesn't make sense. Don't talk to me like a therapist. So we have to really delve in with our patients and find out what they respond to. We think about asking those, are you a visual learner? Or, we ask those questions. And I think a lot of times we passively ask them, which is too bad, because there's some opportunity there to find out what the patient wants. But just opening that door with motivational interviewing, I think, is what it comes down to, and, if the patient asks the questions in a biological manner, it's probably okay to explain it in a biological manner.
Okay. Yeah.
We talk about that in school because we spend quite a bit of time with the students teaching them not to use scary words, harmful words. But then athlete will come in, we'll have a case study where an athlete comes in with an ankle sprain or something, and then
you're not activating your glutes.
Well, they try to talk around, the ankle sprain, and like try to use all these metaphors of why they hurt. And it's like, it's okay. They're a 16-year-old with an ankle sprain. It's okay to tell them they sprained their ankle. Like,
but I thought every patient was a chronic pain patient.
You know what? I wouldn't say that.
But
I wouldn't say that, but I would say, again, I actually had I was treating a psychologist, and she goes, "You're motivational interviewing me." I was like,
nice.
Yep, sold. And I had a student with me at the time too, and
did you just look at her and go, "Am I?" Just motivational interviewer to right back. Boomeranged it.
And but no, it's I mean, that's been my word, is nuance, and like understanding like what somebody needs when they need it, and you're right. Like there's a lot of I would say this: there's a lot of 16-year-olds that don't need to hear an analogy necessarily, but there are a lot of 16-year-olds that are worried that they will sprain their ankle again, and that their season will be over. And so, like, how do you message that? I mean, gosh, I talk so much with hurt versus harm, graded exposure, those types of concepts with almost every single patient, because it is like a lifetime of associations that you're trying to move through.
And I would say not every patient is a persistent pain patient, but every patient has the potential to. But at the same time, like, pain is a living, breathing part of us, and it's something we carry with us forever, right? I mean, like you said, that ankle sprain in high school, when you sprain your ankle again at 40, is going to rear its head around, And how do you deal with that? How do you work through that?
But how many times do you hear that in the subjective? Oh, I hurt my knee back in high school, and it's like, bro, you're 68. Like, but it is like understanding that those points in time do leave an impact on somebody's life. Those points in time, those injuries, those changes,
their experiences.
That affects how they move the rest of their life. That affects what they, how they feel, how they perceive pain the rest of their life. And it's not like you got to get stuck too far into it all the time. But for some people, it is very important to unravel. So then it's just, I mean, that's a lot of, to me, where the skill as a clinician comes in. It's not as much what we're doing, it's how we're doing it when we're doing it. And did we meet the patient where they were at? That's my take.
It's a good take. It's a great take.
Thanks.
I like this dialogue so far. What?
Dolan's like, whatever, man.
What's Dolan like? What?
Yeah,
that's a
Nick's
like,
it's
you're
just
use
dynamic
a with me right
instability.
Dolan be like. Were they a question? Like, this is an honest question because I have not seen that research, but were they talking about like the straight up like Adrian Lowe metaphors, like lying in the room, that sort of thing?
Well, yeah, I think between Adrian and Lorimer, like Mosley does a lot of that stuff too. And like I said, it's not that it's a dangerous research because, it's, you don't want to move people away from pain education, and I think it's an effective way to deliver it, but I think it just comes down to, it's how you deliver it. How do you decide who's going to respond to it? But, even from when I started with Adrian to now too, the research on, pain science alone is not good. I mean, it has to be adjunct. It has to be patient specific. It has to be combined with, like you said, pacing, graded exposure, all that stuff. I mean, if you don't bring those pieces in, you can't talk somebody out of pain.
But doesn't this all make logical sense though?
Yeah,
I mean, it really does.
What other intervention works standalone?
True. I mean,
zero.
Nothing.
Like there's
exercise.
No, it doesn't. It's always manual therapy and exercise.
Well, it's always better, right?
Yeah, but what Jeremy's talking about, we had this. I mean, I went on that rant quite a few weeks back about my and this is where I got a little hot just a little bit ago, Casey, with what you're talking about. And then my issue with research and the way that it's presented, right? It's like we have far too many people that are either employed by, universities, colleges, or they're deeply associated with them. And their whole job is to just constantly go back and forth and basically rebuttal. And I think what we see is people who, like, if you have clinicians, let's say students that become clinicians and they gravitate deeply towards that type of philosophy and they got to really follow it. You see more and more of that paralysis by analysis, to steal that expression, right? I hope that metaphor is okay. Like they're not really paralyzed.
Ooh.
I don't understand it. It doesn't fit me.
What? You're not connected.
But it's like, I can't do anything because now it's showing that didn't actually activate the infraspinatus, and Reinhold was wrong. And maybe I should just throw that one out because it's a big waste of my time and their time.
But what, so then what does it come back down to though, right? Like what level of clinicians do you usually see that at?
Early, typically.
Yeah. So
younger, is that what you're saying? Is
yeah.
that what
So
you mean by level?
to me, yeah. I mean, yeah, I shouldn't mean that. You're correct. But because the research would say
The metaphor is confusing me.
the longer we practice, the further we get away from good care. But in a lot of cases, but man, I was talking through this with some annual reviews, like introspection, like look, like think about how you practice, right? Like
Yeah.
I went through this day, like what were my treatments like? Was it just like, oh man, I hated my 9 o'clock. I'm glad I got through that. Or man, I'm so glad I got to end my 3:30 with oh, this gal, she's just so bubbly, and it just took me into my weekend great, right? Like I think sometimes we, you know, I'll take it back to Rod Aguero again. He went back and like after talking about doing the basics well, he's like, who has non-compliant patients? And you look around the room and like, 40 clinicians all raise their hand, and he's like, whose fault is that? Right? And it's easy to be like, well, they just didn't want to hear what I had to say. Well, they just believe that chiropractic works. They don't believe that physical therapy does. Like, oh well, and it's like, man, well, like at a certain point, that's where I love outcomes and things like that. At a certain point, like we can generalize and we can give ourselves excuses till we're blue in the face, but like at some point we got to confront that and be like how really am I as a clinician?
Yeah.
And that, like, again, it's evidence-based. Well, but does it work? I mean, is it working? Is it showing up as working?
I agree with you, like the vast majority of that. Now I'm going to have a little caveat here, and I've been banging that drum for like the last few months. You guys, I think you both heard me say, like, nobody should care about their care. Nobody should care about rehab, their care more than they do. Right?
I used that the other day.
Yeah, thank you. You're trademark. I'm going to start trademarking it pretty soon.
TM.
So I also have issues printing from this facility, right? So I have been emailing all my patients out their MedBridge programs.
Yeah.
And when you do that, when you create a patient and do that, you can see how many times they access their programs.
You can.
Right. And there is a variation that I've recognized on there. And I'm the one consistent, right? I'm the consistent therapist that's applying it. And I don't think maybe I am giving higher skill to some and less to others. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, or maybe they're perceiving that. But I can see some vast, wide fluctuations in who's accessing their programs and who's not.
Yeah.
And the ones that are the ones that are technological
barriers?
No. They all check them. Like one of my things that I have them do is I have them check their email before they leave.
Ooh, I like that.
Verify that they got it.
I like that.
But that's a big key to it too. So you're right. I agree with you on pretty much all that, all the, everything being equal and holding ourselves accountable and getting away from excuse making, because we've definitely heard that before. Heard it doing annual reviews over the years, heard it for team meetings, everything else. Like, it's always like, oh, patients love me. And then when they're not getting better, it's like, yeah, but these ones suck, right? Or these ones aren't bought in. It's their fault.
Yeah.
And it's like such a cop-out. But some do, unfortunately, some do just not. They want you to get them better right in front of them.
Yeah. So, but then again, I still come back to like messaging, right? Patient expectations. Like, do we tell them that? Do they know that? Do they believe that when we tell them that? And gosh, like to me, I guess so much of that bedrock is communication. Like if you're a good communicator, I'm gonna like go out on a limb and be like, you're gonna have pretty damn good outcomes. I don't even care how good of a therapist you are. If you're a good communicator, like you'll probably do okay.
Do those communicators use metaphors?
They may.
If it's appropriate for the patient, of course.
When appropriate.
So
That would make him a good communicator. If
That
they're just
horse-
a communicator.
Right.
that horse died
correct.
a long time ago, and I'm beating it to.
No. I think I agree.
I'm going to
with
spend
Casey
8
there.
hours teaching metaphors tomorrow. I
The
don't
difference-
hate them.
Yeah, but it's the difference of good or just a communicator, right?
Mhm.
And understanding timing and things like that. But yeah, I like it.
And like I said,
that wasn't
that's-
on you, and that wasn't a butt knock on you, Casey. That's
No, and
me
that's-
just venting on the frustration on research.
No, and that's again why I said, this course we teach, we teach them all the metaphors because you need the tools. And again, like I said, I don't always use them anymore all the time because they're not as applicable. When I first started P&E, man, I almost had a list I went through with people and made sure I covered all the points of why they hurt. And now I feel like I'm a lot more confident on who's going to respond well to which metaphors and who needs them, who doesn't. And, some people are pain responders and I don't need to spend that time on metaphors, they do well with therapy and just get to exercise.
I just have this strong suspicion, Casey, though, that I think you have the ability to change outside of the straight up. Well, it's like there's a lion in the room, right? Like I have that faith in you that you can bring it to something that means something to the
murders. I've used. That's my favorite one. I like
Find
that
your
one.
audience.
Yeah.
So it is. I mean, I don't know. I do.
You use the cards. Do you use the same cards all the time? You must not, right?
Like I said, even like Adrian Lowe says, I mean, he doesn't use the cards, right? I almost never use the cards. I have a little whiteboard. I think people respond better to
agreed
moving while you're drawing or drawing while you're talking and adjusting that. So
yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So I have the cards for when I teach. I show them to people because not everybody is good at drawing and not everybody wants to think on their feet. That's a skill too. So, but everybody can deliver P&E in some way, shape, or form. You just gotta, just like your patient, you gotta find you as a therapist. What's your best way to deliver it effectively within the reason. Some people are going to be better at it than you. And you know what? There's a lot of therapists that are better at delivering exercises than I am. So, I mean, that's, you got to find what you're good at and bring your bottom up a little bit, but be really good at what you're good at,
Yeah.
Build your career on that and then worry
a
about
rising tide raises all boats.
That's what they say.
How's that for a metaphor?
Is that true?
I think I heard you say that once or twice.
Yeah. I love metaphors. I love metaphors in everything. I love metaphors in leadership. I think they're very true in a lot of ways.
Do you guys have a favorite metaphor?
Good timber. I was just about to say this.
What's your favorite metaphor for let's say in patient care?
In patient care. Because mine's just like resiliency in life. And it's like this little rhyme scheme. It's like, good timber does not grow with ease. The stronger the breeze, the stronger the trees.
Ooh, I like that. Pacing, load, adaptability, lots of stuff there. That's good.
Breaking it down.
Yeah.
How about you, Casey? Do you got a favorite? You got a favorite metaphor?
I plug myself, right? Like Teaching Pain second edition. They have a metaphor from me in there. It's just a fun one. I'm in the book. It's no big deal. If you look at my curriculum vitae, it's on there. So
which page? 13, 14?
It's like 287.
It's in the appendix. The appendices.
Yeah. They drew a nice little picture for my story. So just talking about pacing with patients. It's a fun one I use with younger patients. Like you can flirt with pain, just don't take it on a date. Because pain's super clingy, right? Like you go out to the movies.
Scandalous. I like that.
You go out to the movies and then you wake up the next morning and you roll over and you have like 15 text messages and 5 voicemails from pain. And he's like, "Oh, we had a great night. We should go for a walk later. Like, I'd love to sit at your desk while you're doing your work."
I'll be there.
And, pretty soon you keep answering those calls because you're a nice person, and before you know it, you're married to pain. So,
whoa!
I like this.
What are you saying?
I've never heard that one before.
What are you saying about marriage, there, Casey?
It's a two-way street, Jeremy. You gotta understand it. My
It's
wife's a
married
lovely
another one.
lady. She's a wonderful person. Yes. Nothing to do with that, but
See,
and
you can't
it's
help, but just right
it
now,
gets to
this
be a
today.
little mantra for the patients, and sometimes I'll come in, on a Monday and be like, how's your weekend? Like, oh, I took pain on a walk with my dogs and I shouldn't have, like they understand it. They think about it. It's just one of those fun little things to think about, like, oh yeah, just flirting with it.
And that's cool that they can compartmentalize it.
Yeah. I bought pain a shot, I went out and, picked up leaves for 15 minutes, but I didn't date it. He took the drink and then I went back inside. And so I sometimes like that one. That's
what do you got
for sure.
What do you got for movement doesn't equal pain? What do you got for that?
Like hurt, not harm type deal, right? You're talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess when we talk about
probably putting you on the spot right now.
No, you're okay. Hurt doesn't equal harm. Vice versa. I like the Lorimer Mosley, just quick, like 15-minute walking in the bush, where he's walked in the bushes a million times, feels a little sharp poke on his leg or whatever, travels up to his brain, goes to his brain, memory center goes, yep, we've been walking here before. You just hit a twig or whatever, you're fine. And, 10 minutes later, he drops unconscious because he had gotten bit by a snake.
Oh.
And then
I've never heard that one.
He survives, right? He lives, and then like 6 months later or whatever, they go back out to the outback in the brush and they hike, and he's walking and boom, he gets hit on the leg by something sharp, right? Goes up, A fibers to the brain. They go, hey dude, something touched your leg. C fibers hit a little later. They're like, boy, that's something sharp, right? And then his brain processes and it goes, have we been here before? Yep, you're hiking. Yeah. Have we ever experienced this before? Yeah, you got bit by a snake last time, you almost died. So he drops to the ground screaming in pain. And then they look at his leg and he just got scratched by a branch, right? Like there was no injury, no harm, but his brain processed it. So we talk about how sometimes your brain's just a protective mechanism. Like Jeremy says, based on your experiences, if you've twisted your ankle 15 times, likely the 16th ankle sprain, even if it's not that bad, is, your body's going to ramp up and, check it out. And, if you've had 15 ankle sprains that all have gotten better really quick, you move on pretty quick. If you've had 15 ankles, if you've had 15 ankle sprains that made you miss your senior season of basketball and you couldn't play intramurals later, that ankle sprain hurts a lot more. It's a protective mechanism. So I kind of like just talking about how our body uses pain as a mechanism for protection versus always necessarily tissue injury.
Yeah. Not damage.
I like that one too.
I like it.
And I'll even do that, lawn mowing here, right? I'm a dad now, so I mow the lawn in like shorts and sandals, and like you come in all the time with like blood dripping down your leg, and you're like, oh, I didn't even notice that.
What happened there?
Like, yeah, right. Because your brain again is like, boom, you felt something sharp on your legs. Your light touch fibers said something touched your leg. Your brain goes, yeah, you're mowing the lawn in shorts and Crocs, like. Something go up and cut you.
You do wear Crocs, don't you?
You're such a Croc guy.
No, I am a Croc hater. I will say that.
Oh, you're a hater. Oh.
Don't put me in that group.
So we were both wrong. We misread you.
I figured you would have been a Croc guy for sure.
I totally figured you were a Croc guy. Back straps, everything.
No, I was like a Lacoste crocodile guy back in the day.
Two
or three polos on it once popped up.
I was a polo guy for a long time.
Yeah, I do. I mean, nothing looked better with my backwards upside down visor than two polos.
I wore a visor in the year 2000. It was really hot.
I had a baby blue Tommy Hilfiger visor that I wish I still had to this day. That thing was hot fire.
Shell necklace.
I did. I had the puka shells. I had the puka shells, blaze orange Billabong visor.
Well, because we were all sitting in tanning beds. Nothing looked better on your tanning bed skin than a white puka shell necklace.
I should have rocked it this last week. I would have been the hottest thing on Clearwater Beach.
Yeah, you would have been. See, when I had the visor, you'd have to ask Lacey that question. Have you ever had girls hitting on Casey? How'd that go?
I like girls who wear Abercrombie and bitch.
Take her
Remember that one? Remember that one,
LFO.
LFO. Well, that was good therapy talk, boys. That was. Should we go into our top 5? Do we think we're ready for that mentally, emotionally?
Yeah. I mean, you had some more notes on our list. I mean, you want to save that stuff for another adventure?
Might need to be, because I think I know we don't have a hard time limit, but we might be here 5 hours if we go.
Well, it's good. It's good banter. I'm fine with moving on top 5 movies because I want to spend some time on this garbage. And I'm curious to see what your guys' lists are. So
I am too.
I think we could, happy hour podcast is great. I mean, I'm willing to do this again. So
yeah,
I'm happy about it.
I'm like thinking, 3 Patron LaCroix deep right now.
But what kind of LaCroix?
Patron LaCroix?
Oh. Well, yeah. Well, if you're gonna have Patron, it's got to be Limoncello. I mean, it's got to be.
You went to Sam's Club, didn't you?
We're Costco people, Jeremy.
Oh, Costco.
Yep,
Sorry.
Yep. No.
Okay, what is that?
You have misjudged me since this whole episode has started.
You Crocs Sam's Club boy.
Yeah, just me and my Crocs at Sam's Club hitting the aisles.
I apologize. You know what? I am going to say it in the recording. I apologize because I was wrong, Casey. I misread you.
That's forever now on the internet.
That's genuine. I mean that. I'm like, I would have hated to be accused of being a Croc guy.
You promise you don't have any like camo Crocs?
I don't have any Crocs, period. We did buy my son.
Kids? Yeah.
Some like Croc knockoff. I don't believe they were. I think we got him a pair of actual Crocs at one point.
A Croc off?
Yeah.
my daughter Maddie's all crocked up.
What are the kids?
Like cool.
Jubilees? What do they put in them? Those things they put in the holes.
Oh yeah. They put some
Jumblies. I don't know what they're called. Anyways, the kids like them. So my son has a pair.
You know what's crazy? That was when I was in Norway 14 years ago. That was hot. Crocs were hot 14 years ago, and putting the little pins in them too.
Dude,
they're still here, man.
They're still
my dad.
here.
My dad, rest in peace. My dad, Gary Dolan, he got a pair of he had a pair of camel Crocs, like you're talking. I think they were camel, or maybe there's solid black.
Taylor Huseby has those too. Just shout out Taylor Huseby. He had some camo Crocs at one point.
Did your dad have some Jubilees pumped in there?
No Jubilees. He had a lot of other
NRA pin or something
stuck to them.
Yeah, NRA pin.
Yeah, his would have been right. He had that in his hat.
Okay, so I wasn't far off. I don't have to apologize.
He would have been balling in Europe, Jeremy.
Yeah, I didn't want to be. Did not want to be.
Nah. I'm excited about this list too, because it was one that like putting it together. And so mine was like, okay, again, disappointing movies of all time. So in order for it to be a true disappointment, you have to have some level of expectation, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
Nothing on my list was, I mean, there were bad movies on my list, but I didn't pick a movie that was just bad. There's plenty of bad movies out there.
Yeah. And I had more at first. I was like, man, I'm kind of struggling. I had like 2 or 3 right away that came to me right away.
Really?
I remember the experience in the theater, and I was like, oh man, this sucks, right? It's just dragging. But as I thought about it more and more, I'm like, you know what? There have been a few, and then more of them came to my mind. Probably because, like, thinking back to certain ones back in the day of rentals, where you just are disinterested in it, and you're like, man, because of that, I don't think it, resonated in my memory banks as well. It didn't come to my mind as quickly. But coming to it, I ended up still having I had 11 on my list.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily. I mean, I do have an honorable mention list, but like when I look at my 5, there's definitely movies that are similar in vein, but not as disappointing on my list. And interestingly enough, all 5 on my list I did see in the movie theater. And I don't know if that played into it or not. I guess because you're committed to.
Theater guys, aren't you? I was.
Yeah, me too. The theater experience was badass. I was big into the midnight movies for like a 4-year period.
Yeah. Yep. One of them, I actually have. Like a Wookiee. I have a couple on my were actually seen like on those midnight previews.
Yeah, I am notorious for falling asleep at midnight movies, though. I think I've probably done about 9 or 10 fall asleep.
Why go? What was your first one? What was your first midnight one?
First midnight movie, Phantom Menace, I would guess would be my first midnight movie.
Really? Back then?
Yeah.
Did that make your disappointing list?
It did not, but it did make my honorable mention.
Where did you go see Phantom? Okay, you living up in Boones. Where'd you go see that at midnight? I'm just
Devil's
intrigued.
Lake.
Wow.
Yeah, so driving an hour to watch that movie at midnight was disappointing, but again, didn't make my top list just because I was a Star Wars kid growing up, man. That movie would have had to be absolutely terrible, like, to disappoint me that much, and the movie was sufficient. I mean, the pod race was cool.
Yeah. I think it gets. I think most of those prequels get a worse rap than they actually deserve.
It was okay.
Yeah, it was okay. I can't say I left disappointed. So
me and my buddy Chris, we drove all the way to Grand Forks to watch that one. It was like opening weekend at some point.
Yeah, so
we were worried we'd even get tickets though back in those days because there was no
way to get tickets.
We're talking 99. So
yep.
Yeah. Well, I can kick it off this time. I can
perfect
kick off and see who wants to go next. But
top 5.
So out of those 11, I had two honorable mentions, and it's ironic because they're for the exact same reason, same year actually they came out. So one honorable mention is The Fountain, directed by Darren Aronofsky and starring Hugh Jackman, Rachel Weisz. The other one, and I'll say them both, and then
I think I've seen that too. Is that where like Hugh Jackman's in like some sort of bubble thing? Is that?
Yes, there's 3 time periods, in one of them he's in the bubble, floating in space, orbiting.
Okay, seen it, didn't care for it.
Now the other one I have is Southland Tales, also made in 2016, written directed by Richard Kelly, from Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko guy, right? Yep.
So both of these they're really just auteurs, right? At the time that they were releasing these movies, Aronofsky had put in like 6 years between Requiem for a Dream and The Fountain. So he'd been spending all this time on it. And I was not a huge Requiem guy, but
that's good.
Definitely interesting. Very dark.
I think
his best work is in that grittiness, right? Like his 2 best films are probably Requiem for a Dream and The Wrestler. Just being able to tap into realistic grit, right? And you can like identify with it. It's just, like it's haunting. Like Requiem for a Dream is a haunting movie in a lot of ways.
It's a great movie.
Southland Tales coming out. Like I said before, I was a big Donnie Darko guy in college. Really enjoyed it.
I was too.
Yep.
And
I was artsy for liking it.
I have it on DVD.
Yeah, same here. Big time fan of it. And it was one of those films that I said to Casey a while back. It's probably lost its luster with me over time, actually, because you go back to watch it again, you're like, wow, there's a lot of confusing aspects to this and stuff that, kind of frustrates you. And Southland Tales is no different. He's trying to unload a ton of stuff, like, entering like post-apocalyptic nuclear warfare with quantum physics and time travel and
The Rock is in that? I didn't even know.
He was like veering
Justin
into that.
Timberlake.
Sean Williams.
Oh my goodness!
Really like
I need to watch this.
Big vehicle for Sean William Scott. He was another Minnesota guy.
Stifler.
But just very overly confusing, trying too hard. So both those movies like fit really similar to me, like same thing. So I know I've gone a long time on my honorable mentions, but super disappointed when I watched both of them because my expectations are so high off of what they'd already done, and it just didn't meet.
You felt like Southland Tales was like way more convoluted than Donnie Darko.
It actually is. Yeah, I think he has bigger ideas and more elaborate ideas that he's all trying to shoehorn into this one movie.
Yeah, what they called it? I liked Southland Tales. I guess I found it. I didn't like it as much as Donnie Darko, but I also went into that movie thinking it was going to be confusing like Donnie Darko. So they delivered. I was like, I'm confused. I don't know what's happening.
Wikipedia calls it a dystopian comedy thriller.
I remember a lot of comedy.
Comedy?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound
it's got,
comedic.
like you said, Stifler's in it.
Yeah. I mean, he's funny, I guess, but I don't think great. I would
somehow on that note,
I would call Ghostbusters a comedy before I call that a comedy.
And we broke down how many genres, Ghostbusters is. This one's like trying to shoot.
It's the best comedy of all time, but go on.
Just saying. Not saying, just saying.
final thought on Sean William Scott. Really kicking myself on that comedy list that I did not have American Pie 2 in there. I like really breaking my heart. I broke my own heart on that. Okay, so my real top 5 going in here. My number five. This one goes way back. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Ooh. So growing up as a kid, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was just so much fun. And it was kind of in my comedy list too, but it's also, again, it's been so many genres. It was like, it's just a great movie. I enjoyed the heck out of it. So I was super excited and pumped that there was a sequel coming out. And when it came out in 91.
Don't ever be excited for the sequel.
But I was really excited. I was still a young kid. I mean, you're still impressionable and you're like, can't wait to see it. And it was just so dark. And it was very, it had these dystopian elements to it that the first one didn't have.
The Easter Bunny scene and like give your grandma a kiss.
Right? There's
on my memories for sure.
That stuff, right? And the robot Bill and Ted's and all that stuff. But so super disappointing when it came out. Now, that being said, you go back, I've watched it many times since then. I really enjoy it. Really, there's so many things that I enjoy more. I think it's got a better soundtrack as well than the original. But Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is my number 5, coming in at probably the oldest movie I have on this list. But one of the first times I thought I was really
what year was that movie?
Disappointed. I think 91.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, probably not as disappointing. I'm a little bit younger than you are. So wow. Bill and Ted's for me, like I didn't like the first one that much because I think, I don't know.
God, shut up. Just stop talking.
Well, it was good. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but like I was a pretty young kid when Bill and Ted came out. So there, I didn't really get the slacker high school kid thing as much. Whereas like Bogus Journey, there was just like, okay, I know who Death is. I was a little older than that came out. I mean, when they're playing Battleship and like Twister, that was like
that was okay. That was really funny. When I was a kid, I loved that part. But overall,
they're like, give them a Melvin.
Like I was just deflated. I was like, these guys. This was so like the first one you leave, and there's so much energy, and the presentation. When they're like high-fiving and the music's just awesome and everything's upbeat and Rufus gives them the guitars from the future and it's just great. And they break it. There's just a lot of negative, like they put a lot of storm cloud in the second one and they overcome it, which is a good little story. And
I think I was just dumber and immature, and the second one is just an immature movie with a lot of quick gags, and that sang to me. So but I can see where you're coming from. Wildly different movies. Like,
yes, very different
expecting
feel. Yeah.
If you're expecting Bill and Ted's and you got Bogus Journey, where I was just saw a movie with death in, I was into it. You know how sad and morose I am, Nick.
One thing I think that when you go back and watch Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, like it's so it's just fun. It's fun and clever. There's all these lines about even just mispronouncing Socrates and the way they keep calling him Socrates. And
wait, that's not what it is.
Who's Joan of Arc? Noah's wife. Like, I mean, just fun lines. I liked it.
See, it's stuff I missed as a, whatever, 5-year-old or 6-year-old when that came out. So
love it. All right. So who's
how
up
old
next?
Are you, Casey?
That's my number 5.
I am 37.
37. All right. So, Jeremy,
I was curious. I will be in May. I was just curious because I never was a big Bill and Ted guy either, but I didn't have like older brothers either.
I think that helped me too.
So I'm like, I wasn't exposed to that, but I still haven't seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So
you've never seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Have you seen Bogus Journey?
No, neither.
You're gonna want to start with number 2. It's a Star Wars deal. You're gonna want to start with number 2 and go back and watch.
Oh, okay.
All right, who's up next? Number 5.
I'll go. My number 5. I'll let Jeremy collect his thoughts a little bit. So my honorable mentions. I got just a few quick ones that fall into my honorable mention. First off, I like horror movies. Two horror
Okay.
movies that really are disappointing to me for a weird way is the remake of A Hills Have Eyes and the movie Hostel. Both of them for the same reason they're disappointing to me. I don't know. I know, Nick, you get scared easily, so you probably haven't seen either.
Well, okay, you better talk to Jeremy about this because I
freaking hate scary movies.
Yeah.
I will not watch them. My wife loves scary movies.
I watch them. I'm a seasonal guy.
I hate it.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty seasonal too. Like Halloween time, I gotta watch my scary movies.
Starting in September, I love scary movies.
But both these movies have a situation where the main character survives like the most horrible things ever and can get away scot-free, but someone they know or someone is still in the clutches of these evil, horrible people, and they go back to save them. And that just bothers me. Like, you got it, man. You're free. Just go.
No.
Like, you literally saw your family butchered.
What about your beautiful wife?
Don't call for
beautiful wife and some
what would be smart?
Cannibals trying to eat her.
Yeah, go find the police. Go find the military. They're going to be much better at saving your loved ones. And in Hostel, the guy doesn't even know the lady, really. He met her for like 5 minutes. He's like, oh, I got to go back and save this lady. Like, they've only blowtorched her face. She'll still have a good life.
Oh, my God. I can't stand that stuff, man. That's not even a horror to me.
That's why I don't want to travel.
That's that Eli Roth brand of horror. That's like, what do they call that? Murder porn?
Torture porn.
Torture porn?
Yeah.
I'm not, and I will say I'm not a fan of it either. But yeah, this lady, he meets her in passing. I think they met in a club or something, right? And she's still there, and he has to go back to save her. Like, this guy's literally like saw his two best friends killed, lost like 2 fingers, saves this lady, and she ends up killing herself because she can't live with her disfigured. Like, those movies are just very disappointing to me because it's like,
correct.
Now in The Hills Have Eyes, he goes back to save like his newborn baby. But again, I would still say, get in your vehicle, go find the military, save your baby. Because at this point, you're dehydrated, you're emotional. You haven't had a good night's sleep because this family tortured
those
you.
Algorithms are kicking in.
Yeah, they burned your father alive in front of you. Like, there was just a lot of things, like, just let it go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so those were big disappointments.
Those are your honorable mentions.
The other honorable mention we've talked about too was Anchorman 2. I felt like that was an absolutely garbage movie, but by the time it came out, I was kind of over it anyway, so it didn't disappoint me too much. And there was enough chatter that it was going to be a bad movie, so by the time I watched it, I knew it was going to be a bad movie. So those are my honorable mentions. My number 5 is also a horror movie from 2003. This was a directorial debut by the director. Big fan of like his music videos, and I thought he really loved the genre based on his musical performances.
It's Rob Zombie.
Is
House of a Thousand Corpses?
Yeah,
2003. I was super hyped for this movie. The trailers were cool. Looked like some really interesting characters. It was a throwback to Texas Chainsaw Massacre type filming. It seemed like he was going to do a lot of cool stuff with it. But literally it was like a crappy Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It wasn't as tight. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think is a great movie. Again, if you like horror, I mean, it rolls right into the horror right away. I mean, it's like 10 minutes
grit.
and
it's grit.
It's gritty. Nasty. The family's dying right away. They're running the whole time. It's just like an adrenaline pump for, an hour or whatever. I don't know what the runtime is.
You leave the first Texas Chainsaw. You're talking about the original.
Yeah, the original. Correct. Yep.
You leave it like exhausted.
Yeah, like I mean, there's like a 10-minute scene where they're sitting down to eat with the weird family that's like the only slow mark. But even that's like so creepy, like you're so uncomfortable.
It's unrelenting. It's on. Yeah, that's what I mean.
And he tries to reproduce that in House of a Thousand Corpses. I think he fails
with a young Rainn Wilson.
Rainn Wilson is, the 4 folks that get trapped by this family just put in a very garbage performance. Captain Spaulding's probably the only real good acting in that movie or fun acting in that movie.
He's died now, right? He passed away.
I believe he passed away. Yep. Rob Zombie's wife's in there. She is absolutely terrible.
He puts her in everything, right?
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan.
So, and there was just a ton of boring parts, and the ending's really weird. She escapes, and apparently it's supposed to be this Alice in Wonderland type algorithm or metaphor. Run, rabbit, run! And she goes through the tunnel, and you know how I hate metaphors. And
yeah.
How
do you feel about analogies?
Yeah, just as bad. No, they introduced two villains with like the last 20 minutes to go, and it's like they're completely unattached from the family. It's weird. I was very disappointed. I went to it with my buddy. We were both pumped. Saw it in the theater. I wrote Rob Zombie asking for $7.50 back. I haven't gotten it yet.
He doesn't care.
No, he doesn't seem to. Just like his music, he's just gonna like redo the same movie 8 times. So that's my number 5. House of a Thousand Corpses.
Okay.
Super disappointed. I was pumped for it. I thought it was gonna be like the best horror movie I ever saw, and it's
I'm gonna guess that Jeremy has no horror movies in this.
0, none.
I already had
3. So I guess my honorable mention / number 5. I mean, it could encapsulate probably like 19 to 5. My
dramatic pause.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop talking about movies right now. I'm gonna dodge it. But it's any DC superhero movie ever made outside of Christopher Nolan Batman. I have not seen the Batman. I have not seen that yet. So I cannot judge that. But that and the Joker was crazy good. But outside of that, every other DC movie that they've ever made is a complete disappointment to me. I geek out over superhero movies.
So you're willing to go? Are you going back deep? You're going to go all the way back to like Michael Keaton Batman?
Yeah, they're terrible.
Better be careful, son. No,
they're terrible.
What about Swamp Thing?
Terrible.
Whoa.
Aquaman, terrible.
Okay.
So here's the deal.
Tim Burton's before Tim Burton lost his mind and just regurgitated the same movie. Like those first 2 are so good, dude. They're dope.
They have good soundtracks.
They're doing the bat dance.
But they're bad, man. Like, and they throw in like this is how bad it is. I'd say like Red and Red 2. I think they somehow fall under like the DC umbrella.
Do they?
Like those are like the best movies out of DC.
Even Aquaman. You didn't like Aquaman, huh?
No, it was bad. Freaking Batman versus Superman, terrible. Superman should be a freaking great series. Terrible. I don't know.
I'll disagree. Superman's the worst superhero of all time.
I'm just saying, like, they're like, if you and you try to compare Marvel, even Marvel's bad movies, even like
Thor 2. I would rather watch Thor 2 than almost any DC movie.
Thor 2. I mean, we could throw in the Black Widow movie, like
Iron Man 2,
10 Rings, Iron Man. I love the Iron Man stuff. Like Robert Downey Jr. He's good, too. Man. He's good.
All right.
Robert, they're gonna struggle without him, I think. But man, like the worst Marvel movies absolutely crushed DC's best.
See, I would agree. I think you're drawing. You do a good job of drawing that comparison. I think if they came out at a different time, there'd be a different perception of it. Like,
they did,
and you're right.
The Nolan series, I like them all. I like them all. Man, they're riveting. I can't wait to see the Batman. I want to see what that has to hold. But I've heard good things. I've heard bad things. We'll see.
All right. That's your list. That's fair.
Now, is that your number 5?
Yeah, it encapsulates like 20 to 5.
Okay, so 5
there's a lot
of disappointing movies in there.
Oh yeah,
for sure. I would just say almost every single DC movie ever.
Which one do you think is the most disappointing? Let's hit a 5.
Was there any that you had high expectations for?
Yeah, like Batman versus Superman.
Honestly, Batman versus Superman, I did have high expectations for, and no, it's.
Yeah, I think for me,
didn't hit on any level.
If I had to choose one, Suicide Squad, the first one. Second one I liked.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, I think that they don't get. I think that they don't.
The first one
because of the comparison, because that Marvel they came out when they
supposed to be
did.
bomb. Yeah.
The second one's fun. I mean,
yeah,
you can
the
totally
second
tell
one's campy.
it's
The
James
second
Gunn.
one is what it
it's
is.
so
yeah.
James Gunn. I mean,
yeah, it's Guardians of the Galaxy with.
And you watch
worse
Have you guys watched Peacemaker at all?
But I haven't yet. But that's on my list. And
same vibe.
But honestly, like Guardians of the Galaxy is so much better.
Oh, 100%.
Suicide Squad 2. I mean,
yeah,
so good. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it tells the actual Suicide Squad. There's a story, but it's dumb. And I think Suicide Squad gets carried by John Cena and
Idris Elba, man. Yeah. He's good. He's great.
He's awesome. I love him.
I kind of like Joel Kinnaman too.
Yeah. The Batman
I like
series
seeing Pete Davidson die right away. That was fun.
Should freaking carry. I mean, man, that should have so many different storylines. Like, do you guys ever watch the animated Batman growing up on WWE?
That was the best TV show of all time for cartoons.
God.
A lot of people still say that.
Yeah.
So
Phantom,
I'm like,
not Phantom.
You should have so
the
many
Mask of the
Phantasm.
But the series itself was cool, like because Batman was a detective. Like it wasn't an action. Like it was like Batman was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well done. Good acting. They had to do a lot of editing because they didn't think it was for kids.
I think they're more maligned than is deserved. I think. Do you guys see the Zack Snyder Justice League? You guys drop 4 hours of your day on that one.
Did you
lost enough of my day on his other.
Did you like that?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a level up. I mean, it filled a lot of gap. And
you throw enough darts at the board, and 1 or 2 storylines will be okay.
I do agree. I agree with some of it, but like I thought, Man of Steel was enjoyable. Like Man of Steel's enjoyable.
Ultrasound works sometimes.
Yeah, but I agree. Like when the first Suicide Squad came out,
that was supposed to be balling.
Not good.
That was so terrible, and the directing was horrible. Like it's night, and then like a scene later, it's supposed to be the same time, and it's like daylight out.
Well, and you probably heard too.
And the dude with the grappling
people want
hook,
like a David Goyer cut because apparently there's this fan base that just clamors to see all these other cut things. They blame everything on Warner Brothers. Because Warner's owned that property forever. And they're like, it's their fault. Like they've just butchered everything. And these guys never have their vision laid out. But I don't know.
I think it's cut because it's terrible, probably.
Not bad though, Jimmy. I get what you're coming from. I can
it's terrible. So that I felt like appropriately encapsulated a honorable mention list and a number 5.
Yeah.
But I think I would say Batman versus Superman would be my number 5. Like that I had high expectations for, and it failed.
Yeah, the only reason that's not on my list is because I have never been a DC guy, always a Marvel kid growing up. So
same.
Yeah. Never had much. I always thought, like I said, I think Superman's like the worst superhero ever. Batman was cool mostly because of the cartoon. Yeah, the rest of the comics were just garbage. I never liked DC. Marvel was way better. So I never had high hopes. I was never disappointed because I never wanted to see them.
All right.
Therein lies the not question.
You got it, Nick. Hit us with a metaphor.
There it lies.
Well, anywho. Well, and that's your number 5 is Batman versus Superman, you're saying?
Yeah.
Dawn of Justice.
I made him pick.
Whatever it was.
See, I can't think I've seen, other than the Nolan ones and some of the first Batmans, I don't think I saw many of those in the theater. It was like itching. So by the time I saw them, my expectations were so subverted. I was like, hey, like by the time I saw Batman versus Superman, I was expecting a terrible movie. And I watched it, I'm like, well,
it was delivered to you.
It's like, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, you know?
I thought it was going to be bad, and I was actually surprised that it was worse.
I watched it on HBO, and I thought it was bad.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll move on to my number 4 to keep things moving. This was already mentioned once. So Anchorman 2. Love the first one. Was pretty hyped about the second one. I love the fact they got like the whole gang back together. Was really excited. They just seemed like they're having a good time. And again, this is disappointing regarding the first time I saw it. Went, I think the kids were on Christmas break, so Michelle's parents had them, so we went and saw that in the theater. I should have been a little warm, just skeptical, just because it was PG-13. I think the original theatrical cut was raised that way, but I'm like, I'll still go in. And I left just like so like, just like, man, this was such a cash grab, and I felt like they were mailing so many things in, and jokes were just. I told Michelle, I'm like, it seems like they all just got way too high, and we're like making each other laugh. And they're like, that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna make a movie of all this like super inside stuff, and that's making each other laugh, but they forgot about their audience. So I know we've mentioned it before. Now over time, I've given it a second shot. I think I waited 5 or 6 years and then watched it again. It was on TV, and I was like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought, and laughed a few more times at it. But that for me was my number 4, 2013's Anchorman 2.
Yep. If I hadn't already heard all the terrible things before I watched it, I would for sure be on my list because I hate that movie.
Mm-hmm. I think I've heard you say that. Yeah.
It's one of my. If we had a top 5, just horrible movies, it would be.
Well, it's my number 4 most disappointing.
Disappointing / horrible. I mean.
No, not totally horrible, because some of these get better. Like I said, both of these so far, I've given subsequent runs at, and I'm like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought.
I don't know if I've watched any movie on my list more than once because I was so disappointed. My number 4, a superhero movie as well.
Okay,
it's not DC.
Marvel.
Marvel.
No.
Okay, who was it?
Marvel before Marvel was good, so it's hard to say it's a Marvel movie. Are
you gonna go Spider-Man 3?
Spider-Man 3.
Close. Could be an honorable. I actually didn't hate Spider-Man 3 as much as everybody else did.
Whatever.
You did too.
The first time you saw it,
emo Peter Parker
was
too. I liked it. I don't know. I only hated Venom. Venom ruined that movie for me. But nope, it is not. This is a 2009 movie. I was, as a kid, if we're talking Batman the Animated Series, number 2 for me was the X-Men animated series.
You weren't a kid then.
Are you going Wolverine?
You weren't a kid.
No, not this, but we're talking. So I was a huge X-Men
going
as a kid.
The X-Men animated series, that's underrated too. That the series you're talking about? Yeah.
Oh man, that opening sequence, that music, so good. Anyway, so X3 was pretty disappointing, but I thought it had redeeming values. Next movie I believe in the line would be 2009 X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
Holy crap! What a horrible movie.
I mean, I think we can all agree it's the worst movie to have.
I saw that Jackman in theater. Yeah.
I was pumped. Like, all right, Hugh Jackman's awesome. It's all about Wolverine. I don't have to worry about all the other crap. I don't have to worry about Cyclops.
And you're right. His story, his origin story is pretty awesome.
Badass, right? Ryan Reynolds was going to be in it. I was a huge Deadpool guy. I'd heard he was going to play Deadpool. I thought that was heaven.
Oh, right? That's not disappointing. I love Deadpool.
They were gonna have Gambit was gonna be in it initially, and there was, they were gonna bring some cool guys. Sabretooth was gonna get some time, and then you got to the movie, and it was the worst CG ever. His claws are coming from between his fingers. They looked
better 9 years before. In the
totally
first X-Men, right? I don't know what the hell they did.
Ryan Reynolds shows up, and you're like, all right, he's kind of playing the same character he played in Blade. But when Deadpool shows up, it's going to be awesome. Well, when
was he Green Lantern?
Deadpool,
was he Green Lantern?
They make Deadpool look completely different than Deadpool's ever looked. He can't talk. His mouth is shut. It's the dumbest thing ever. He's got laser eyes. Like, you took one of my favorite characters, absolutely bastardized him. I couldn't even tell you really what the story goes. Like, it's just so bad. Like, you had such a cool source material, and you just
so good too. I mean, just the material I'm speaking to. By the time
Hugh Jackman's so good, like that should have worked, right? Like, because the next Wolverine movie was solid, and then Logan
so much better,
unbelievable,
so much better films. Yeah.
It's like, it was so disappointing, and it's even more disappointing now because I've seen him do other Wolverine movies and they're so good, and I've seen Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, the real Deadpool, and it's good.
That's funny.
I love it. It's awesome.
Funny.
You're right. So. There's a lot when you laid it out like you just did. There's a whole lot of disappointment in there. and that's the best word for it. It was like,
I couldn't
hey,
tell you one good part of that movie where I was like,
well,
oh, that
okay,
was cool.
Okay. One redeeming part, and it's like it's miscasting, but it works out in subsequent viewings is Leif Schreiber. You know,
Yeah,
he's a good villain.
He's likable for sure.
Likable. But you're right. You nailed everything. I think for me, the only reason it's not on mine is because my expectations were so low. I waited. We did go see in the theater, but I think I was at my buddy when I first came out. My buddy was getting married, remote wedding, so we were in Turks and Caicos, and then I think it was putting it off, and then eventually, so by the time I saw it, all the reviews were like, God, this is terrible, right? And I'd seen X3. Like X3 was a very disappointing film too.
Agreed. Not quite disappointing enough to make my list because there was some cool things in there. I mean,
some neat stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe only because my expectations weren't as high, but when you lay it out like you just did, you made some good arguments there, for sure.
Still Jeremy, probably better than Batman versus Superman, but
yeah.
Interesting. I was hearing about how on this sidebar, there's this subsect of like fitness that talk about these actors who just get jacked and shredded for movies
with BFR
and with all BFR,
all four limbs
and
waist.
And obviously, I mean, there's been a lot of
waist
online criticism of Hugh Jackman and how much muscle he was able to put on for those movies.
Aortic occlusion.
And so you get growth hormone.
And supposedly when he like the famous scene of him coming out of the water, that first big reveal,
pretty badass. I guess
that is pretty good. Pretty good scene, pretty well made.
Redeeming factor. But
they say basically he trained. It's nuts. They treated like certain scenes in that movie, and that was one of them, as like a bodybuilding show. Like he did all this prep, like weeks and weeks on end to tighten down the diet, and like
did you have so much fun?
He didn't drink. What are we listening to? What is that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Snapchat.
It's picking up on the mic.
It piqued my interest. My 20-month-old daughter had her first mommy and me gymnastics course tonight, and it piqued my interest. I apologize.
Okay. All right, family guy.
Locked in.
No, I'm shutting up. Yeah.
Run.
So you give us your number 4.
So Hugh was jacked, man.
He was
probably
treated like
probably no performance enhancing drugs used, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
Anyways.
Yeah. Well,
he put it together though for those movies. I got to give it to him because I mean you can't just put a needle in your ass and then get to look.
And I mean you from X-Men 1 to like Origins. I mean doesn't look like the same guy. X-Men 1 he literally looked like a Broadway ballet dancer. I mean, he looked like
what he was, right?
Yeah, come on.
He did. He's not overtly impressive as Wolverine in the first one.
No, I mean, by the time he morphed into it, I mean,
X-Men First Class when he gets like blasted in the hotel room and he's just like rippled muscle. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to correct you. That was Days of Futures Past, buddy.
Sorry, Days of Futures
Past.
Yeah. Correct.
Well, let's just keep the timelines correct. All right, Jeremy.
Go on, Jeremy.
Number 4.
My number 4. Again, this is I'm a nerd. I like action films. I like history.
Love it.
Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Oh, how did I forget about it? Go on.
Man. Like Shia LaBeouf or LaBeouf or whatever, however you say it, him coming into it, I'm like, man, I had high hopes. And then to have it all boil down to like this alien deal, I mean, I thought they were going to reboot the whole series. And I thought they had like a good story to do that. I love all of the originals.
Mm-hmm. They're all so much better than that movie.
And I'm like, that movie sucked. At the end of it, I'm like, it's like, really? Like, that's what we came down to for a Spielberg? Like, I don't know.
The little spaceship that flies out.
Yeah. I'm like, I love like the National Treasure Indiana Jones type stuff, like Freemasons, like figure out this puzzle. There's a treasure. Love that. And I don't know. To me, the aliens was just, I don't know. It's just
100% right.
Sure.
100% right, Jeremy.
It's just too much.
I'm killing myself. I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't even have this in my 11. And this was one of those midnight showings that me and my buddies in Michelle
was it
to.
Really?
And I was so pissed.
I'm sorry for you.
I'm like,
I thought about leaving. Like I really stopped caring. At some point, I thought about leaving that movie.
I'm gonna go to the 7-Eleven.
Man, like he's like Indy's such a badass, and to have him in the film, and then be like, man, we got someone we can pass this off to. Like, I really thought that was gonna dovetail into a new series, and it was just ultimately. I mean, I bet they made bank on it still, but
yeah,
it's still like not great.
I've heard it said so many times that
Shia LaBeouf was on fire at that time too.
Transformers. Yeah,
Disturbia.
Yeah, Disturbia's good.
I was excited for him. I liked him. I even liked his work in Even Stevens.
He was on the come up.
Oh, that's me too. Let's go way back.
So Disney Channel, you're right. I thought for sure that this is the new Indiana Jones. He's going to kill it. And horrible story. I went into it with less expectations though, because like I said, it's the fourth movie. It's been so long. My expectations were a little,
but it's Spielberg.
Tempered, but
it's Spielberg.
Yeah, they did bring the whole band back together except for Sean Connery, pretty much.
Yeah,
I would say Spielberg didn't do much.
They even brought Karen Allen back for that one.
Yeah.
God, what a miserable movie.
Yeah.
You're bad. You're right. It's a bad movie and disappointing. It just didn't make.
No,
I've heard it said so many times.
Disappointing. That just sucks.
People are like, when he hides in the refrigerator for the nuclear bomb. I've heard it said like you should have left the theater then, like at that moment.
Should have told you were in for garbage.
Walks out like.
I stuck it out. And we all tried to look at each other and like, oh no. Yeah.
Well, maybe they were made out of lead in that time. I don't know.
Well, I think that supposedly there was like some grain of truth that could have possibly happened. Whatever.
Hard to imagine that level of heat, but
yeah.
Good choice, Jeremy. I
guess they're well insulated. Can't hate on that choice.
That's a good choice because I'm looking at that and I'm like, I was definitely more disappointed in that movie than I was Southland Tales of the Town.
Then we go.
Yeah.
Number three.
From 2014, The Hobbit: Battle of the Five Armies.
Oh, that's the third one?
Third and the final.
The second one was on my short list for sure.
Was it? Second, because the first one is boring.
Mm-hmm.
Second one,
setting the table.
Second one kind of repicked things. I enjoyed the second one. The desolation of Smaug.
Now, the second one, though, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, you're very good with timelines. The second movie, because I've only seen it once, the second one does have a scene where they're riding in barrels like a snowboard, and the one dwarf turns into some sort of barrel tank man as he's fighting people. Correct? That's the second one.
As they're evading the orcs, yes, I believe that is a scene.
I walked out at that point.
Now you missed the amazing capture work done by Benedict Cumberbatch doing the voice of Smaug. Don't laugh. I mean, that was like the whole premise.
Nothing could retain snowboarding on a piece of wood.
The whole book. Well, yeah, and the CGI was worse than Lord of the Rings somehow. Yeah. Again, going back to your argument about X-Men Origins, somehow
budgets, man.
Peter Jackson's like totally just but the second, and now we're talking so much about the second one.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to
pretty much redeems itself. But my point is, the second
one, the third one never even redeems itself.
The second one ends on this higher note. The dragon's awesome. Best part of the whole franchise, really. And he flies off and he's going to attack the city, and it really leaves on a cliffhanger, and it leaves you wanting more, right? Almost the best place you could be at.
That's what it should be.
The second one was so bad, I never even watched the third.
The third one, I'm about to drop an F-bomb. I'm getting myself worked up here.
True story.
Third one
I'm glad, apparently.
And it freaking opens up, and Smaug's freaking dead. Like, they killed it off. And you don't even get to
screen?
really, or they kill him off right away, right?
Okay.
The dude shoots him with an arrow, the big harpoon.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? That's how you're going to take him out? He was like the biggest part of the first two movies. Like the whole first one builds up to, anyways. And then there's all this freaking nonsense going on. The lead dwarf, not a terrible actor by any stretch, but he's like got the gold flu, so he's like obsessed with gold, and super, just a shitty dude. Until he
perfect for a shitty movie.
Until he gets talked out, until he gets talked to his senses.
It just sucks.
I left that movie just being like, God dang it, what a freaking shitty movie. Yeah, mad at Peter Jackson. Like, because if you follow films, I remember I was really still kind of following movies closely back then, and it was originally just supposed to be 2 movies, right? And then somebody who made it was like, no, we gotta do reshoots, and we gotta make it another trilogy, just like Lord of the Rings book.
Yeah, like a book
Magic
that's
formula.
like under 300 pages should be the same size movie as a movie based on 3 books that are whatever.
So damn much filler. So much filler. So that's my number 3, Hobbit: Battle of the Five Armies.
Yeah. I would say probably a great choice, because the second one almost made my list, but like I said, I didn't even finish it. I had nothing to talk about on it other than how much I hated it. So I didn't put it on my list. And I can't say I was like overtly excited to see it, because the first one sucked too. So
yeah.
I thought the second would maybe be redeeming, and then halfway through the movie, I was like, no, it is what I thought it was.
And it wasn't.
I'll disagree. What are your thoughts on the second one?
They were who we thought they were.
Crown them.
Am I the only one who enjoyed the second one?
Desolation of Smog was a good movie, I thought. And I do think it left in a good spot. And then I would agree with that. Like, where you'd say, like, if you're in a series, like, that's where you want to end it, right? Like, hey, like, let's come back for more, and then to kill that off right away. I agree.
Totally sucked. Terrible decision.
I love the books. I read them in high school.
Yeah.
Loved the books, and I agree with you. I would say that's more disappointing than 2.
I was a huge fan of the original Hobbit cartoons. I don't know if you guys ever watched those movies.
I never saw the cartoons.
Love the animation style of those. So
Ralph Boschke, right?
I believe that's who did it. Yep. Yeah, like the same guy that did
because there's an original Lord of the Rings
correct
cartoon that came out like around when I was born. Kind of a big deal.
Those are cool. I
grew up with that one. Very cool. Yeah.
But I
was that like 68 Doling?
Pretty close, give or take.
The Lord of the Rings movies were better than the Lord of the Rings cartoons, but the Hobbit cartoons way better than the Hobbit movies.
I agree. I pretty much agree with that. Yeah. Give us your number 3, though.
My number 3.
Give us the 3.
All right. Yeah, this is a good idea on starting this early, Nick. My number 3. My number 3 is probably the only movie on my list that's maybe a good movie. I don't.
Okay. All right.
I have a hard time saying it's a bad movie. But I believe it's a movie that was maybe not made for me. And I didn't know what I was getting into when I went to the movie. I think the trailers were minimal for this movie.
I like the build-up.
Yeah.
I like the build-up.
This classic Casey.
This would be the year 2005.
You're going to disappoint me when you say the name.
So 2005,
in your disappointment.
Building up to this movie, the star of this movie was probably the coolest guy alive at the time in 2005. Everybody's following everything he's doing. He couldn't do no wrong. He was a darling. I thought this movie was going to be more of his same deal, and it was not. I did walk out on this movie as well. Again, 2005.
Yes.
Dave Chappelle's Block Party.
Oh.
I was a huge Chappelle Show guy. I mean, that was, man, I don't even remember when it aired, but the next day, that's all you could talk about in college. It was the most hilarious thing ever.
01 to 03, right?
Yeah, something around that time period. And yeah, now all of a sudden, like, he's back with a movie, and I thought it was going to be skits and maybe some stand-up, because I liked his stand-up at the time too. He had some pretty solid stand-up. And really, it's like a documentary about like a rap concert in his hometown. Like, it had nothing to do really with him. I mean, he's putting it on, doing some philanthropy, but no real good skits. It was a lot of interviews. Yeah, it was just it was hard for me to handle. I was so disappointed. Like I said, they start with a pretty racist initial sketch that was probably designed, be a classic, making fun of white people. I was like, oh, okay, that's funny. And then like it was just, that was the movie. Like I was like, oh, okay, it just never sang to me at all. Like there was nothing redeeming after that first couple jokes. And like I said, I'm sure it was a good movie. The music was good. I mean, they had some really good artists on the concert, but I was just so out of it. I was like, when are the sketches coming? When are we gonna, where's Rick James? Where is Charlie Murphy? None of those people were there.
R.I.P.
So, yeah.
It's Rick James.
Like I said, I'm sure it's a good movie, but for me, it was super disappointing because at that point, Dave Chappelle could do no wrong for me. I was excited to see what he was coming out with. Yeah, I don't think, I think Chappelle show was over by then. So it was going to be this big return, and it was very disappointing. But fun fact, I left that movie and went to Running Scared, the Paul Walker hit.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie. But if we were going to flip the script on this thing and go top 5 like unexpected hits, that's probably a good one. That movie's phenomenal. So it all turned out well. It was either Tim Allen when he turned into a dog or Running Scared were my other two options. So I chose correctly.
I have not much else to add other than that I love Dave Chappelle back then. Never saw it. I never saw the block party. Didn't go to see it.
Yeah, apparently nobody saw it. I must have wandered into the theater and
I remember when it came out. Yeah. And then it was but wasn't that like right after he supposedly, like, all the talk was he went crazy, refused the offer from Comedy Central.
Oh, he went to they said he went on like a sabbatical, like he
went over to Africa
to go live in Africa.
Yeah.
But man, I think it's fair to say that his last 2 specials on Netflix, I bet he's made bank on. I think he's doing okay. I think he's doing okay. I think he's doing okay.
Yeah, I think he financially recovered from Dave Chappelle's block.
There's something he was charming.
But at the time he dropped, it was like $100 million deal or
it was a huge
$50 million deal.
Yeah. Yep.
And he just left. He left it at the table, and he's so funny still. Like, we watched his new stuff. I laughed so hard.
Do you think the material's that? You know what works for me with him yet? Yeah. And he's different. He's different now because he's not a sketch writer. Like back then when he was doing sketches, I mean, he was brilliant. I could just say he was just brilliant.
Yeah, the racial draft was
so smart.
Just cracks me
for shizzle.
Cracks me up.
Yeah. For shizzle. We black people finally drafted Tiger Woods. You know, but I mean, now I find myself laughing at him though. Just there's a charm more than anything in him just truly not caring.
Yeah, agreed.
Where he's at right now, and I find myself laughing as much at that during his stand-up specials than anything else.
I would say from a joke writing stand-up perspective, it's poor jokes. I mean, he's not a great joke writer, right? Yeah. He's a great storyteller. And I don't mean to put these two people in the same context, but it's a similar thing to like when Dane Cook was really popular. Like he had no jokes. But there was something about, he just told stories and it sounded like sitting at the bar with your buddy.
It totally did. Dane Cook connected with me at the time. I know it wasn't funny, but you're right, Case. At the time, Dane Cook worked for me.
Yeah, me too.
His stuff worked for me because it was like, man, we've had these conversations. Me and my buddies have in a different way, right?
Yeah, right. Somebody drives into your driveway. I'm gonna cut his head off because like it was just, it wasn't jokes, but like you said, I had those same similar talks.
He was relating.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna fill the pool with fire, and you jump out, and the guy punches you in the face. Like it's so dumb.
Back in the fiery abyss.
Get back in the fire. Like those aren't jokes, right?
Just think about his dad. His dad being like, "Hey, we don't have to." His dad was all hungover. He didn't know any better, but he's like, "It's not going anywhere." And then he like flashes forward. Guess what? It went somewhere.
It'd be like situational comedy, right? Like it's less a punchline and more like yeah, I've been there. I can relate to that. Yeah, I
feel
agree
like
with that
as
wholeheartedly.
Chappelle's been, as he's lived this life now, his stand-up is just kind of evolved into more of just a Dave Chappelle storyteller and less, because he told some funny jokes, but they were, even early on, there were more stories and his character of Dave Chappelle, but it's gotten even more to that end, but I still enjoy it immensely.
But you're right. At Dane Cook's peak, what he was telling in those stories could have been, if you had the production company support, it's basically a Saturday Night Live skit, right? Or Dave Chappelle show stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's just telling those stories and then you just act them out. And I think he got a bad rep too. I think there's a couple things like he was
Stealing
so animated
jokes was a big thing with him,
I guess, right? But then I've heard that's been debunked too. Like there's guys in comedy, like the guys in comedy who say, well, it's not really true and that was over exaggerated and it's so hard to have an original thought anymore.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part with comedy is like, how are you going to keep up with everybody's stand up? And the only problem is like the jokes he told had already been on been recorded on an album, and it's like, well, I've never listened to it, and I believe him. I think he's pretty genuine with that, but you just can't come back from it. Like maybe just apologize and move on. And he fought it so hard that I think it left a sour
I think what hurt him is that the dude was so big. I think he got so big and people couldn't wait to tear him down.
And
he had
a lot of that.
And
the guys selling out stadiums.
And he brought a lot of chicks to the show. And I think there's something funny about how once that starts happening in stuff like comedy, people, then all of a sudden the guys are like, well, he must suck now. Right? Because these girls like him or they just think he's a pretty boy. And I think that worked against him too at the time.
Oh, good conversation on my number 3 for a movie no one's seen.
I would also go into
good dialogue.
I would also go into what you said, Doling, to say like that there's like this refreshing take that nobody cares. And we saw a couple of years ago, it was right before COVID. We saw Aziz Ansari.
I remember you saying that.
And it was just his whole show. He had just been hit with some
Me Too
allegations from Me Too
stuff. Yeah.
And God, his whole show was just apologetic.
Oh yeah, that's on. That's on Netflix, right?
Yeah. He's
same,
it was like
same
the
tour.
Same thing.
Anyways. Yep.
Yeah. And he'd be like, we've all been in this place where, we're hit with these things.
I'm sorry. I gotta say I'm sorry.
And it was like, that was a whole show. And it's like, dude, you are so funny. And really funny comedy, I think, is unapologetic, or it approaches like borderline offensiveness, because it's like people like things that people don't want to say. And
here's my I don't want to steal this from you, but we agree on that, right? And I saw that, like I saw a stand-up special. I was so excited to see it. And it was after you'd already told me that story. So I'm watching that with Michelle and I'm like, this is the same shit Jeremy was talking about. Right. He went to this, he said him and Amy went to this concert, like within Grand Rapids, maybe.
It was great.
And I'm like, and it was just a downer because we kept looking at each other like, Now here's my main issue. Number one is this: if you're selling as a comedy special, and the first 30 minutes is all just super mopey, like, I'm sorry, but at the same time, he also denied it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm cut from that cloth. Where if you truly didn't do anything, and you're innocent, and you were accused of these dastardly
then why are you apologizing?
Then don't apologize and fight that to the death. Because if somebody was going to call me a rapist, I'm not going to sit there and be like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well,
but you're like,
it was just like he was trying to take like kind of like hot button issues and be like, yeah, we've all been there. We understand that. And we're so sorry. Right.
She was obviously hurt by that, but I didn't do anything. I hear you.
I didn't mean that. I'm so sorry. And it's like, man, this was not like, especially, when you think of the last couple of years too, where you're like, man, people talk about like, oh, is comedy effective or not? And I'm like, man, it is so therapeutic to laugh, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, shoot, we could bring this back to therapy and like, how do we engage people and like, are their sessions fun? Right? Like,
Yeah.
do they laugh while they're with you? Or is it just like, all right, I think I'm done now,
Just
right?
put Chappelle show on the TV in the gym and let it go.
Well, you might want to make it.
Swearing's
You
fine.
might want to make it slightly more appropriate than that, but the concepts remain. It's just like, man, people like to feel good. People like to laugh, and I don't know. I feel like comedy as a whole has lost that. I hope we get it back. I really do.
I think some people are still trying. Some people are still. Yep. All right, your number. That was good topic, Casey. Good number 3. Considering like you've never seen it, but generated some awesome dialogue there.
So that's all I do.
What's your number 3, big man?
So my number 3. Good night, baby girl. My number 3 is Assassin's Creed.
Sorry,
guys.
Assassin's Creed movie?
Is that Michael Fassbender?
Yes. And man, you guys might not know this. I'm a video game nerd from the time I've been 8 years old.
Yeah, what's your top 5 Nintendo games?
I love video games. Assassin's Creed, honest to God, like that's one series. I think I've almost bought every single game that's come out in the last 15 years. And they do London, they do pirates, they do Viking lore. So it hits my weird obsession for history, and then also like a video game. And like, so they bring historical concepts into this. So Assassin's Creed, if you're not familiar with it, it's like this modern day tech company that puts people back in this machine that can basically transport them back into a historical timeline for their gain. You get a little bit of like some like Knights Templar type lore with that too. And I don't know, overall, again, I would say along with Indiana Jones, something that I'm like, freaking cool storyline, something that they can translate really to any timeline in history effectively, where you'd say like, man, this is Genghis Khan, or this is ancient Egypt, right? And just disappointed. I think it came out in like 2011 or something like that. It's been out for a long time, and just has not hit in terms of sequels. So something that I was pumped up with just based on my enjoyment from video games, and it just did not pass. So
I've never seen it, so I have not much to add, but I can respect your disappointment.
I too have 0 to add because I've never seen it nor played it. So.
I did have high hopes for Michael Fassbender, and I don't know what else he's doing right now. But great job as the young Magneto. Gotta give him that.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good.
This won't give as good of dialogue, but it's what I had to say. So
no, that's good. That's real.
Did he jump into like a bin of hay in the movie ever? That's all I know of Assassin's Creed.
Oh yeah, they do. But
Classic.
you know, like the whole thing is like that they basically this like time travel machine is like you have to have the DNA of, let's say, Joan of Arc or whatever,
so
Eric the Red,
related to where you're going.
At some point there has to be some DNA, and they basically put this implantation into your spine, and then you can go back in time. Okay.
Seems believable.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm gonna give it a shot. I think I'm gonna look it up sometime.
I won't.
That's all good.
We'll take Jeremy's advice on this.
That's all good.
All right.
Nick, what do you got?
All right. My number 2. Keeping the drama out of this, I'm going to jump right in. It's from 2003. It is The Matrix Revolutions. Also saw it midnight and thought just a total catastrophe of a film. Totally from the highest expectations you can imagine coming out of '99's original Matrix. Reloaded was a good middle installment. A lot. You could tell the Wachowskis were developing a lot of ideas with it. And I remember reading at the time that one was a philosophy major and one was, I can't remember, science maybe? Something like that. But you could tell they're just trying to cram a lot of stuff in. And the third one's just way too off the rails. Stupid, crappy, mechanical armor gunfight. It's like they took some ideas from Aliens and like, oh, let's put some guns on them and they'll be fighting the machines. And it's at the end, there's really no good resolution either. It's like they decide they're going to fight Smith. Hugo Weaving went from this amazing, awesome villain to just, I don't know, too much of him, too much of a good thing, maybe. I don't know, maybe what they're thinking with his role. Keanu's kind of mailing it in by that point, too. They kill off Carrie-Anne Moss, which gives it an emotional point. They even kill off Neo. I mean, just total suckfest. Hated it. When Resurrections came back out this year, I did watch that. I went back, watched the first two in like some back-to-back evenings or something with Michelle. I still won't watch the third one. It just sucks so bad. That's my number 2, Matrix Revolutions, 2003.
Keith, you got anything to add on that?
I will, because my number 2 is from 2003, but it's Matrix Reloaded.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
All right.
See, I was just gonna say, I was super geeked for Resurrections too. Like I watched all 3 of them, and yeah, like in this list, I could say like I don't know very many. I got to take that back, but it's few and far between that if you have something that says like 2 or 3 behind it, that it's better or equally satisfying as the first.
Mm-hmm.
It's just tough. It's just really, really tough. And they were okay in their own right. Like I said, the 2 and 3, I have not seen all 4 yet, but
it's okay.
I would agree. That
maybe because my expectations were so low.
That almost made my list as well. So,
see, I think 3 is so bad because 2 is so bad. Like 2 for me, why I hate it so much is I was way more pumped for 2 than 3 because 2 was so terrible.
That's fair. That's a fair point. Yeah.
1 was awesome. I mean, it just hit a note. The action scenes, Keanu, the story was all cool. New CGI type stuff.
And there was a 4-year gap there, leaving you wanting that.
Yeah,
right?
and I was pumped because I thought the second one was going to be like a world building thing. Like we're going to explain the Matrix to you, and I guess I got what I wanted, but it sucked. Like it just ruined it for me. Like the magician revealed how he did his tricks, and it was crappy. Like, and that's what happens, right? I lost all the magic from the first one.
There's some deep thoughts in it,
story.
Could have been fleshed out more.
The only thing I would say, the second half, it did action scenes way better than the third one. Like there was some pretty badass action scenes.
I think that I think for me,
that
I can't have it in there because of that freeway scene. I think that's legit. If we ever have a top 5 like action sequences of all time, that's up there. And that was amazing.
20 minutes of action for just like an absolute another garbage hour 40 or whatever it was. I mean, it's for me, that's why the second one is so much more disappointing because it ruined the Matrix for me. But the third one, it was already ruined. I mean, it just
I enjoyed it. I thought there was much more redeeming stuff on Reloaded than it was Revolutions.
I think Reloaded is a better movie than Revolutions as well. But as far as disappointment, I gotta say 2 was more disappointing than 3. The bar was so damn low by the time
you get the neat finale conversation with Keanu and the architect that if you watch it like enough times, you're like, man, I kind of like this scene more and more and more, and I can gather more out of it. But I can respect
fell asleep during that scene at the midnight movie.
Oh,
so thrilling.
Ergo vis-a-vis.
Yeah, maybe that would redeem it for me. No, I've watched the scene since on YouTube because I refused to watch the whole movie, and I'm like, it's still shitty. Okay.
So do you believe the architect? Like, do you think the architects tell the truth? I mean, they're machines, so they're probably gonna lie. But he's like the ninth chosen one.
I don't even know. Like, I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't even care. Like, that movie just crushed me. There was no reason to care whether he's telling the truth or not. Like, does it matter?
See, but it leaves it. The second one, I think you're right, Casey. You're right about a whole lot of this, but I don't think it stopped mattering until the third one, because the second one ends on all that cliffhanger stuff. And you're also left with this question. He gets to choose the door. Which one are you going to go with? And all that stuff. And you're still holding out hope. You're like, man, this is going to have some finale to it, right? But by the third one, they're like, nah, it's just going to keep going. And guess what? We're all going to, what a dumb effing end to a series where they're like, the people are just going to stay plugged into the machine. And we got this truce. It's like, what? Because you spent like the first movie so mind blowing because we're all slaves to a machine and we're all just a battery.
Maybe we still are.
But by the maybe we are. That's what this world is. All right, you know what? Good points though. I'm not trying to argue out of that, but I think as we're being, what's the superior shitty movie? It's Revolutions.
Yeah. Okay.
At least we can agree on that.
We can agree on that. Revolutions is by far the worst Matrix movie.
Yeah, it's not even worth going back and watching again. I can't tell if Jerry, how much wine have you consumed at this point?
He's gone. We've lost him.
His air must
Jeremy's number 2 is Vision Quest. He already told me.
I'm flying out to Michigan and
no, my number 2.
Yes,
he's back.
My number 2.
If it's the Matrix, anything.
That'd be crazy. We don't plan this, folks.
That could have been on my list, but my number 2 was No Time to Die. James Bond.
Have not seen it.
Not a Bond guy myself either.
I always have been a Bond guy. I don't know if you remember this growing up, but Nick, you might be too old. Just playing.
Born in the 60s.
But you remember like TNT used to do Bond marathons?
Yeah, around Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I'm like, I've seen every Bond, and as cheesy as they are and as crazy as they are, I've liked them. And like the Daniel Craig ones got a little bit more serious, a little bit more realistic.
Quantum of Solace needs to be up in here. That movie was trash.
Yeah, it was. Inspector wasn't that great either.
No,
you know what I think was, honestly, is that this got delayed secondary to COVID, and I was like, man, I'm like hyped to see this. And I think it was because I hadn't seen any single movie for like 2 years. And I'm like, man, if they delayed this has gotta be good. It was not.
That's not
good.
Usually what delayed means, Jeremy.
Usually if they shelf it, it's trash.
I get
but
that
COVID
they're shelving it because it's like, well, no one can see it in the movies, right? I get that for a film. You're like, man, like we're not gonna have any ticket sales. Like, it was not good. I didn't like it. I'm kind of weirded out by where the Bond movies are gonna go. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
with you. I'm like, the more I read about it, I'm just not interested in it.
Yeah. Like, so they may have lost me as like an entire fan. I mean, like, as goofy as they've been since like Sean Connery, it's like, I don't know. It's always been like a decent storyline to watch. And this was
Jeremy, you're making a
trash.
great point. You're making a great point on where I think the entertainment industry is as a whole. Like just that idea that they got to take themselves too seriously, and every movie's got to have some big geopolitical message associated.
Yeah, I agree. So
and then I think people who want to hotshot it and go back retroactively, they're like, "Well, we always were, right?" Like the X-Men were an allegory for racism, right? You're like, okay, back in when the comic book happened, I totally get that, right?
Giant X-Men #1 for sure.
But like this whole notion that now like the movement is, there's producers who are like, the next Bond's going to be a woman of color. Like, why? Like, you don't have to. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but just hit it up with come up with the fresh franchise and do
008.
That. Just do something different, right? But anyways,
I would say you'd basically need to you'd just kill off James Bond. Just make it someone else.
Now, I made a statement a couple weeks or last week, actually. Skyfall is maybe my favorite Bond movie ever.
Skyfall's all right.
Best Bond theme song.
Adele? Yeah, Adele.
All right, we can agree.
My number 3.
All right, continue.
No, you're great, man. I haven't seen that one. I'm with you. I'm like, I don't know. The more I read about it and I don't know, just other aspects to it, I just didn't even want to see it.
Yeah,
and I was disappointed with Spectre.
And I did, and I ignored that stuff, and I was like, kind of, like I said, kind of hyped because nothing else was out, and it's didn't hit.
Yeah. We should. That's another topic. Bond. I guess Casey, you just said you're not a Bond guy, but
yeah, my list is gonna be GoldenEye, the video game story.
That was money.
That was
money.
1 through 5.
Yeah.
I don't know anything else about James Bond. Never seen a Bond movie in my life.
Are you kidding?
True story. Yeah.
Oh my
it was like
God.
what was this one? The 25th. This was like the 25th one, right, Jeremy?
Somewhere in there. I mean,
Famous. I thought it was
gotta be
25th
close.
or something like that.
Yeah. Not
Wow.
living in a lot of regret.
Wow. I find them all equally charming. Like I like Roger Moore. Like I know that's a hot take, but he played his were just fun. His were always like a little goofier, a little dorkier, but just fun. Good choice, man. I'm eager to not watch it.
Talk comment for me. I'm sure it's good though, Jeremy.
Are we on to number ones now?
It was 26.
We have 3-hour long Lord of the Rings extended edition style podcast.
Yeah, this is the Justice League extended edition.
This is the Snyder
I'll
version.
edit one in post for an hour and a half, and then I'll release the uncut version later.
Okay.
PT Shop Talk episode 13, the Snyder cut. All right, number 1. Again, cutting to the freaking quick. Last Jedi, 2017. Left that movie.
Boy. Okay. Go on.
So just disappointed. Cranky. Being like, well, that's certainly one way to come up with some original ideas, but shitting all over like 7 movies that came before it and just being like, well, none of that matters. Oh yeah, those Jedis, nobody really cares. They're done, right? Is there anything special about this chick? No. Like, who really cares about that either? You have the coolest, freshest new villain in decades, and I'll just kill him off in like the first third again. So I could go on and on and on, but I tried watching it again, got even more pissed, even more ticked off.
Okay.
Like I'm mad at Mark Hamill for signing off on it, but I know he's woke as hell right now. So this whole movement of like, we're just gonna pass the torch and kind of castrate your great character that you had and you basically owned for 30 years, and you were so ticked off that people wrote you out of like the prequels and all that other stuff. But now you're fine just being a wuss. I don't know.
That part's super disappointing. Mark Hamill was, Luke Skywalker.
Finally brought back Luke Skywalker.
Terrible.
He's just a cranky old wiener.
Yeah, like
I'm not gonna train you.
It felt like I was watching a Funny or Die parody of Star Wars to see him in that movie. Like, this is what happens when Luke Skywalker is an old grumpy man. It was just man, everything he stood for. And it just sucks too, because obviously Disney did away with all the Star Wars like lore up to after Return of the Jedi, and like there was so many cool like graphic novels from Star Wars with like Luke and Leia and Han and the Emperor. Like it could have went that way, and like, it was all laid out for you.
Into all of it. He was telling me all these awesome stories and stuff like that. And
like Luke was a badass, and he became so powerful, and it's like training Jedis, and he becomes evil, becomes the Emperor. Like that was like cool stuff, right? And then they just went, like you said, just went with this shitty route with him. Like you talk
disappointment, man. I was coming in hot on Rian Johnson too. Like I thoroughly enjoyed Looper as a science fiction time travel movie. Really a dark sci-fi movie.
Oh yeah, when that dude's like disappearing. Like
god, we could
badass scene.
Another thing, haunting scene, right?
That's a
and the dude who gets exploded by the little boy. I mean,
you're not going to want to watch it. It's scary.
But then you go to and I know fans like there's this stupid divisiveness about Force Awakens, where people are like, it's just retread of the original. But that's a delicate balance, right? The same argument's been made for the newest Ghostbusters film, which I think most people enjoy. But you can retread some of that material. Stick to what made it a success, right? There's not, like we just said, there's not a lot of truly original ideas out there. So you might as well try to, if you're going to rework anything, rework the stuff that is good, right? And but if in the process, don't crap all over like the original story just to try to be original either. You know, try to create your own spin. So I hated it, still hate it now. Yeah, that's my number one, Last Jedi.
Yeah, same with the prequels. I'm just too much of a Star Wars guy. Like, it would have to be absolute garbage for me not to enjoy it in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, the Luke Skywalker part really frustrates me, but the rest
killing
of
off
the movie,
Snoke,
okay
killing
with.
off Snoke. That you got to admit, like by the time Force Awakens came out, you're done with that. You're truly intrigued by this villain. Like you're like, wow, they created something very interesting here, you know, and you want to know more about him. And they give you nothing. You have no idea who he is, and they just kill him off.
Should have fleshed him out a little more. But that was the Darth Maul thing too, right? You know, like badass villain, and like, oh, he's dead. That sucks. And then they bring him back later in the cartoons. But
yeah, but he was honestly, I think, I don't know. Snoke had more going for him than Maul, at least at the time. From what you got of Force Awakens, he was just like a cool little acrobatic ninja guy.
Yeah, that I wanted to know more about.
He didn't say anything. He was uninteresting.
That's the intriguing thing. That's the move at the bar when you don't talk to the ladies.
So you disagree. You obviously disagree with me on this one. That's fine. All right.
It's a bad movie. I mean, it's the worst Star Wars movie, I would say.
What's your number one, Casey?
My number one.
Yeah.
1993. You're never more disappointed than as a child. I also love. What's that?
Air Bud 2.
Oh, Air Bud 2.
Mighty Ducks 2.
That's one of the twos that maybe is better than ones, Jeremy. No, this is 1993 Super Mario Brothers. Holy crap.
Never saw it.
I was a Nintendo guy. I love Mario. Mario 3 is the best Nintendo game of all time, in my opinion.
You said that, yeah.
This movie, you guys have seen this at some point in your lives? Yeah. There's not a damn thing other than being named Mario about this movie that's Super Mario Brothers. It's like a futuristic dystopian world.
Luigi's in it.
Yeah, There's a Princess Toadstool. Miserable. They're all miserable. They take any little thing from the Mario games and just ruin it. They crap on it. They make it just as dumb as hell. Dennis Hopper as Bowser is terrible. He doesn't even want to be there.
Is he a dinosaur? Is he really like a dinosaur?
He turns into a dinosaur.
Or was he always?
Well, I think he had dinosaur DNA. If I remember correctly, he was part dinosaur. Just, it's just Yoshi. You were excited for Yoshi. Yoshi's just a dumb, stupid, flipping dinosaur. Doesn't even have a tongue. You can't ride him. And here I am. I mean, I'm a little kid, so I don't. Obviously, as an adult, my expectations would have been different because I'm like, well, they don't like have the technology to make a good Mario Brothers movie that's like the video game. But as a kid, I was so pumped. I went to the damn movie with my brother. Right, I'm 9 years old. I think if the math holds. We get to the movie. My brother ditches me, goes hangs out with some other kids. So I'm watching this movie by myself. This is probably my first experience as a human being where somebody took something you love and just shit on it, which has happened many times now in life as you get older. The Hobbit, The Last Jedi, right? They've taken Assassin's Creed, right? They take everything you love and they ruin it. But this was my first experience, like personally, of having that happen to me. And it sucked. And it today sucks. I have a very vivid memory of sitting in that movie theater just waiting for this movie to end. And it's garbage. It drove Bob Hoskins to become an alcoholic and pretty much quit acting for the most part. It ruined acting for Jeremy Leguizamo for a long time. I mean,
John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo. And the movie had the damn audacity to end on a cliffhanger. like they were ever gonna make a damn sequel for this thing.
What was going on?
And
what happened?
Princess Toadstool busts through at the end when they're in the world and just they're back in the real world. Everything's safe. She comes through a portal. You gotta come quick. Everybody's in danger. You're the only ones that can save us.
Oh,
Boom,
yeah.
credits.
Producer Jeremy is sending us Wikipedia links right now.
God,
we have an untitled Mario film in the works. Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Charlie Day. Jack Black.
About that, Casey. I know you have.
I know. I've heard. I'm sour. My expectations are low. This is not going to happen to me again.
Oh, it's going to be better now than in '93.
It's going to be animated.
You would have thought the CGI in The Hobbit and Wolverine would have been better than their previous movies as well.
Casey, did you see Free Guy?
It's like a 30-year bump, though.
or Nick, did you see Free Guy?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Not.
Okay.
You know what? That was a great video game movie. I bet Connor loved it.
He did. He enjoyed it, but I think there were. I'll talk to him about it. I think he said last time he thought it was good, not great. But.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But in terms of a video game movie, it's pretty good.
Yeah, they're clever, very clever. Yeah, much more clever than like Super Mario Brothers was trying to what do you say?
I don't know what it was trying to do.
Stay canon. It was trying to stay canon within like an NES game.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. Sucked. There was nothing about it. It was like
they ate a mushroom, didn't they?
Never played a Mario game, and we'll let him make the movie. He can write it, he can direct it. Yeah, badass music. They didn't even use that. That was so terrible. They slap on these stupid.
But now we know eating mushrooms is so good for you in so many senses.
One thing I'll say, they probably didn't have post-traumatic stress from all the mushrooms and stuff they ate. I mean, that's good for that stuff. Their depression level is low, but nope, that movie sucks.
Okay. I can respect that.
I was disappointed. It was probably my first major disappointment as a child.
See, and I'm almost embarrassed. Like, that makes some sense. I'm embarrassed to be a grown-ass man of I think I was 35 or 36 when Last Jedi came out. To be pissed at that age, it's like, what's wrong with me? I had to go home and pray. Just be like, there's better things in life.
I'm pissed at 36 about a movie that came out this year.
All right. Let's hear your number one, homie. I'm excited. We just both almost.
You're not excited. You shouldn't be.
All right, I'm disappointed.
Space Jam 2. I mean, and I shouldn't.
Saw it.
Yeah, I mean,
I saw it. It is terrible.
I shouldn't even put it on the list, but it's like my expectations were low, but still disappointed that they made it, because honestly, Space Jam was for my childhood, a quintessential movie, right? Mm-hmm. Probably more of the soundtrack. We would blare that playing in my buddy's freaking driveway playing hoops.
You hit them high, I hit them low.
Yeah, why not? Just great. And this it makes you want to puke how probably involved that LeBron was in the making of it. No, he's so great. He's got so many social media followers. He's a king. He's the best. It's come on, man.
Mm-hmm. They're trying to tell you something rather than just let you believe it.
You had a huge part in this film. Nobody in Space Jam had to be yeah, MJ's the best. Everyone knew it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I feel he's so caught up in that, is being no, really, guys, I am the best. It's man.
Because of LeBron. Because
Space Jam's one was cool because they're MJ's garbage at baseball. He's able to make fun of himself. Well, yeah, I mean, it was true story, but you could make fun of him. So he felt like a very real character. And yeah, this was LeBron, let me bring my family in, even though I don't believe that was his actual kid.
It's not really my family, but family. And
and Warner Brothers was at the same time, let's latch all our characters we've ever made onto LeBron so everybody can see them. And
Batman.
It felt like a McDonald's Happy Meal as a movie.
Yeah. It was more of this marketing super special than it was terrible.
I hear you. I'm
Zero
not going to
redeeming
watch it.
qualities. Don't.
You should.
I'm not.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's disgusting.
It's kind of funny
capitalism at its worst, marketing at its worst.
Yeah, it's funny when we come up with lists like this, you even instead of being like, I'm gonna have to go check that movie out again, like we do with comedies and stuff. It's like I leave feeling deflated. Like I'm like, I'm pissed now. I'm like, I'm grouchy.
Get them out the list. I might watch this. No, don't.
I'm not gonna go and re-engage any of this ever again. You know,
you've made good life choices.
Really quick, I guess I'll throw out a couple other ones, see what you guys' takes are on this, just to keep the banter going. I had also on my short list was Terminator 3.
Don't hate it, I guess. But
Terminator what?
Terminator 3. Coming off of what's arguably the greatest science fiction film of all time, arguably the greatest space time travel movie of all time. It's hard to feel, hard to beat.
Yeah,
it definitely let down.
Don't hate it though, but I mean, it was just an average sci-fi movie that tried to shoehorn some things. Yeah,
did not need to be made.
I would agree. Yeah, the world would be fine without it.
What do you think about the new one?
The new one sucked. Dark Fate.
Yeah.
Again, just go away. Just they need to stop.
Did you like Genesis? Was that the
interesting
one?
I thought Genesis was 2015.
I like that movie.
I thought I agree with you.
What about Salvation?
Too dark and too like
Christian Bale.
I don't know. I didn't want to see
that either.
Like after you've seen that world, like Sam Worthington, Christian Bale, they're both
good actors.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like, and I get what they're doing. They're finally showing you like a movie that takes place in that whole post-apocalyptic world, and that part was clever enough. But Genesis had some original ideas, and they didn't totally suck either. You know, I remember at the time James Cameron was all touting it. Remember in the lead up, he was touting the fact that this is the true sequel now. Forget about Terminator 3, forget about that. And then when it bombed, he turned around and did the same crap with Dark Fate. Like, this is I'm producer now, and this is the real true sequel. And it's like, dude, just stay out of it unless you're gonna put your real stamp of approval on it. But I thought Genesis, especially if you watch it again, not bad. Not a bad movie.
Yeah. What else you got on that list of yours?
Rush Hour 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just
really phoned it in at that point. Yeah.
Totally. Just because the first couple were fun, you know.
Yeah, they were fun.
And by the third one's just not
even seem like they liked each other. It seemed like they filmed the parts separately and just CGI them together.
Yeah.
Like there's zero chemistry. It's like, how do you guys lose your chemistry like that? But
yeah, I mean, to go from movies that just had this fun energy and banter, and by the third one, there's just no real fun to it. It's like, well, why don't you guys just stop? Yeah, and then my final one, I know Casey, you don't agree with me, but I've said on a repeat viewing is better. But Broken Lizard's Club Dread. Expectations being pretty high off the suit.
Loved it from my first watch.
Not me, not here.
I have an announcement to make. I am baked. My favorite line from that movie.
Okay. All right. That does not redeem the film for me.
Oh, yeah. They're playing like live action Pac-Man. Hilarious. I wanted to be on that island.
How about you?
Minus the murders.
You guys got any other quick
yeah, my quick ones. I had Major League 2, just because I was a huge fan of Major League. Thought that was pretty solid. Also similar vein to Super Mario Brothers was the He-Man movie. That was actual hot garbage as well. Had nothing to do with He-Man.
See, I think it came out, I was still young enough. I enjoyed it. And then I didn't realize till I got older that it's really not very good.
Yeah, the only reason it didn't make my list is because like I have the toys from it and I played with them. So I was like, He-Man. I was like you, too young to really know. Like I didn't have that feeling of being crapped on like I did with Super Mario.
I was just excited that they were making like a full movie about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes kids are just like that, I think. Yeah.
Like I was happy enough that it was a He-Man movie, but now looking back on it, I'm a little sour on it. Like
totally just a weird take too.
Yeah, like I mean, He-Man wouldn't have been that hard to just do a normal He-Man movie. It's like Beastmaster, but put He-Man characters in
I think
it.
they had
Like,
to put it in
already made the movie
for some reason. And, yeah. How about you, Jeremy? Got any quick shitty takes?
Man, my probably the last one would be 2010 Robin Hood.
Is that the Russell Crowe one?
Yeah, Russell Crowe. I mean, like,
never saw it.
Again, like in terms of being a nerd, like a lot of my favorite movies, like Gladiator, Saving Private Ryan, like a lot of kind of action-based movies with like a little bit of a kind of feel-good plot behind it, I guess. But that was tough, and that was Ridley Scott too. I like Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Like Ridley Scott's good, right?
Hey, hold on. I don't know if there's a more
Man
hot
on
and
Fire.
Cold, I don't know if there's
like
no, but I don't know if there's a more hot and cold director in the history of film than Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
If you go back, I mean, you go back all the way back to Alien, 1979, to what he's doing. He just put out some shitty movie with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, The Last Duel, right? And it's on HBO Max now.
I have not watched that yet.
Short theatrical run. Guess it bombed. I was just talking to Lambert. He's like, it's boring. It's, not very good. But Scott was like up and down with like everything he does.
Blade Runner.
Fantastic,
yeah.
Right?
But I mean, yeah,
he's a sneaky good black. You guys want to see a good underrated 80s action movie? Thriller, Black Rain, with Michael Douglas, where he's over in Japan solving a murder.
Really?
And really good. Yeah, I mean, he's done some great stuff, but then he's had some weird movies like The Counselor. Did you guys ever see that one? Another Michael Fassbender one.
No,
Brad Pitt's in it. Javier Bardem, Cameron Diaz, Penelope Cruz. Really a lot of good ideas, but he doesn't execute it well at all.
He did Man in the High Castle too, didn't he?
Did he produce it? He's a producer. I mean,
must be a producer.
That
seems below him.
Yeah.
He's got his little bro.
I liked that though.
What? Did you? I gotta watch that.
Too slow for me. I lost interest.
It is pretty slow.
What a cool concept.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea. I live this life now where you got to hook me in like 2 episodes or I'm done with you.
Yeah. Boring.
Yeah. Speaking of movies, you guys watch Murderville yet? That is a treat. If you like funny things.
Is that
it's funny?
Yeah. No, it's
what's Murderville again? Tell me.
Yeah,
Murderville.
it is. Oh man, I'm drawing a.
Is that Will Arnett?
Yep, Will Arnett. Yeah, he's like.
I've seen a couple episodes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, police chief where they have a special guest that has no idea about the murder and no script, and they just. I love that. That's so funny. They're having so much fun.
I'm a sucker for people breaking character and watch when they break and they laugh a little bit. I like that. It gives me the giggles.
What did you watch the episode with Kumail Nanjiani, whatever his name is?
No,
that one's the best one. That's so funny. That one's worth a watch.
I think that guy needs more stuff. We broke down and watched the Eternals 3 weeks ago. He's the best part of that movie.
He's so likable. Is because he had that one movie that was, I think it was kind of autobiographical about like he had a girlfriend that was like in a coma or something. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, Big Sick. Yeah,
so good, just likable. Anyways, if you haven't watched that show, talking Netflix, give it a watch. It's only 6 episodes. Skip the one with Sharon Stone. Other than that, solid.
Got it. I'll check that. I watched the one with Marshawn Lynch.
I thought Marshawn Lynch was pretty funny. Like he
is funny.
But of all the folks, like the rest of them are, actors or comedians, and they tried to play along. But like Marshawn was just messing with them. Like, they give him that shot. He's like, "Can I drink this? Go ahead."
the one with Conan O'Brien is pretty good too. Because Conan, like I said, I'm a sucker for people who laugh. Like outtakes crack me up. So Conan like chuckling, it just makes me laugh too.
Well, and Will Arnett's I think everybody likes him too. And so he just plays that, when he's just pouring the hot sauce on that sandwich and Conan bites it. And then he I thought
that part was so schlocky and dumb. Really? I mean, I kind of laughed, but
he's so flustered and he's laughing. Like, oh, Conan, you're so flustered. Have another bite of the sandwich to clear your mind. And he's like, seriously, I can't eat the sandwich. Like he breaks character totally. He's like, I can't do it. Like
the
it's too
sloppy
hot.
sandwich or whatever it was.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Give it a shot, Jeremy. It's not as scary.
It was probably only Frank's.
My final statement before my bladder explodes and I gotta go tuck my kids in. Now, if you want to just laugh at an outtake, probably one of the best outtakes I've ever seen was from The Office, and it was like a later season where do you remember Gabe? Remember when they brought Gabe in? He was just the weird dude.
He's
like
HR,
Silicon Valley guy, right?
Yeah, and there's a clip of him and Dwight like arguing, and Jim is there, and they're all in the break room, and he turns around and he deadpans it. I gotta give kudos to that actor who played Gabe. I can't think of who that was, but he's just like he turns around. He's like, I've been taking karate classes online, and when he delivers that statement, like John Krasinski and Ray Wilson, neither one can keep it together, and they're just like laughing so hard. And they try to like play out the scene though, which is pretty funny. And they try to stick to their dialogue, and they talk about like flexing on each other and something about biceps being the new boobs or something like that. Okay. And just watching them not keep it together is one of the funnest things you'll ever see. So if you can find it, look it up.
Sure, it's on YouTube.
That's Zach Woods.
Zach.
Yes.
Producer.
Zach Woods.
We got a full-time job for you, Jeremy.
Is Gabe.
Gabe.
I want to know, so I look it up. I mean, it's funny.
Thank you.
Yeah, good episode. Officially, I think the 3-hour mark. So
longest episode, mega episode.
Yeah. So, boy, it seems like a journey from when we started to now. So, thanks again, everybody, for listening to episode 13. If you want to see our ugly mugs, you're curious to know what Jeremy looks like, follow us on YouTube. Got questions, comments, want to talk garbage about any of our lists, email us at ptshoptalk@gmail.com. Otherwise, I'm Casey Hansen.
I'm Nick Dolan. Peace.
And
later,
Jeremy.
I'm also Jeremy.
He's Jeremy.
All right. Until next time.
See ya.